Another fire has just erupted in the Los Angeles area. More evacuations. The evacuation orders are now covering around 180,000 people. Very little, is my understanding, of this fire has been contained. Some of the smaller fires have been dealt with, so there's some good news there. But all in all, it's devastating. Donald Trump has called for the resignation of Gavin Newsom. It is clear that there is failed leadership across the board. There is a very serious concern that homeless individuals had been starting fires. One viral video of people appearing to intentionally start fires, only making things worse. So we're going to have to break all of this stuff down. But I think the big political component here is what they spent the money on when they cut the budget from the LAFD and, a gay choir, one of them. We have to wonder why it is they prioritize these things. But I think most of us who've been paying attention to wokeness totally get it. So we'll talk about that. But we got some other big stories. The Supreme Court has told Donald Trump, good luck. They're not going to stop his sentencing. So tomorrow, Donald Trump is going to be sentenced. This is going to be weird. He's president-elect. We'll get into all that stuff with my friends. Before we get started, head over to castbrew.com and pick up, that's right, Ian's Graphene Dream, now available. I got to tell you guys. So when it says stock, right here, 1,627, that's the bags, the art, not the actual coffee. We fill the coffee when people are ordering it. We brew it, blend it, it's made fresh. We printed 5,350 bags, thinking that's going to last us like 6 months or a year, and Ian sold them out in a month. We launched the restock this week at 2,100 bags, and Ian's already sold around 500 of these. People love this coffee. But I got a bigger announcement. If you click the franchise button over at castbrew.com, there is a bunch of information, and you can submit to open your own Cast Brew location. As of right now, over 100 potential locations are in the mix. So we have gotten a plethora of inquiries from individuals, and, I'm trying to keep it light because there's certain restrictions on what you can or can't say, but I'll put it this way. Over 100 interested potential locations. Now, who knows how many actually come to fruition, but we might see these Cast Brews pop up all over the place, so get on board. Check it out. Also, head over to boonieshq.com, pick up our chicken skateboard. Tell me that is not the greatest doodle of a chicken you have ever seen. The 20th Amendment. Chickens being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep, bear, and breed chickens shall not be infringed. This one's actually selling #1 right now, so I'm proud to say. Also, head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member to support our show. It's you guys as members that make all this possible. We're going to have an awesome members-only uncensored show coming up at 10 p.m. You don't want to miss it. And as a member, you get to call in, talk to us and our guests. It's a lot of fun. So again, go to timcast.com, click join us, sign up, $10 a month. If you want to jump the line and submit your questions, now it's $25 a month. We had to put up some kind of gate to keep out the weirdos, the antifas who want to come and act a fool. But don't forget to also smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. And joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Rep. Nancy Mace.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. Longtime lurker and listener. Been following you for a very long time. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Thanks for coming. I assume most people know who you are, but do you want to do a brief, just, what are you working on? What do you do?
Yeah, Nancy Mace, spelled like the pepper spray, but only sweeter unless you cross me or lie about me, and then we'll have some words. But I'm from South Carolina. I represent a district in Charleston, South Carolina, along the coast. We call it the Low Country. That's the nickname for the area that I represent. I've been in Congress for 4 years. I flipped a seat from Democrat to Republican. Wow. In 2020. I won by 1.5 points that year, 5,000 votes. I think it got called in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m., but it was pretty awesome. And I'm super excited that 11 days from now, we're going to swear in Donald Trump and to be a part of history. Like the people made history this year, and to be a part of Congress for his historic swearing in, the historic unity we should have in the House, the Senate to get the job done, start deporting all these people who are here illegally. We have a heck of a lot of work that we've got to do. But I do want to praise you. I joke with folks, you are like OG influencer. You've been around for a long time before influencing was a thing, and thanks for getting the message out for conservatives on the truth.
I think it's just the truth. And I think right now reality has a right-wing bias.
Yeah.
Colbert had that famous line, reality has a left-wing bias. Well, that's certainly changed.
Yeah.
Now, basically, what makes you right-wing is if you're telling the truth.
Correct.
Crazy.
That makes you an extremist.
Yeah.
For telling the truth, we're all extremists now, and we're bigots because we just want facts. We just want to follow the science.
And so we got a room here of eclectic opinion, and everyone's the left will say we're all right wing despite various opinions, especially from Ian. I don't even know where his opinions come from or go half the time.
I don't know. I'm God, my man. I don't know, dude. It's just truth. I'm just looking for what's really happening, and if I'm wrong about it, I want to know why.
Well, there we
so that
go.
I can reformat.
All right, so Libby's hanging out.
I'm Libby Emmons. I'm hanging out. I'm with the Post Millennial and Human Events. Glad to be here, guys.
And Ian is hanging out.
Hello, everyone. I'm back again. Hey, Graphene Dream, the coffee. If you haven't had it yet, if you're wondering if you're on the fence, I was describing the way it tastes because before I was like, it's kind of light, kind of watery, but it's better to say it tastes like apple cider if it wasn't sweet. It's not sweet, but it's got like that crispness to it. So get it at castbrew.com. It's super exciting that people are buying that coffee. I love it. Low acidity, baby. Phil Labonte.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary, so let's go.
Here's the first big story. Another fire is breaking out. And, I had a conversation with some friends today, and they've lost everything. I mean, this is horrifying. We've got some updates here. More than 180,000 have been evacuated. 5 people have died. There's 5 fires currently burning. I think this is the latest update, 45 square miles. They say the Palisades fire is now 17,234 acres, destroying more than 1,000 structures. It looks like the Sunset fire has been fully contained. That's good news. That's the scary one for me. I know, James Wooden's a lot of people in the Palisades, but personally, and I'm not trying to downplay this. And I may sound crass, but I have friends who are right there on Sunset, and that's like, wow, dude, it's getting really close. So we've got this video. I'll play this quick clip for you about the latest fire. There's a new fire burning.
Burning in the West Hills area. Officials are calling this one the Kenneth Fire.
Evacuations have just been ordered now, and specifically it's for Van Owen south to Burbank Boulevard and from County Lane Road east to East Valley Circle Drive. Eliana Moreno is a news chopper for Eliana. This one has exploded in the last few minutes.
It has, Kathy. We first spotted it when we were over Altadena looking at the Eaton fire, and then we looked towards the Palisades fire and realized that there was a second plume to the west of the Palisades fire. So we made our way over here, and by the time we arrived, the fire was already at 20 acres.
Wow.
It has since grown significantly with the potential for 1,000 acres here in the West Hills area, touching on Agora Hills as well, and possibly Calabasas as well. It's difficult to tell with all of the smoke just how far this fire has extended, but we're north of the 101 freeway. We're west of Valley Circle, and this is a fire that's being fought with a mutual aid assignment. So we have LA City Fire, LA County Fire, and we also have Ventura County Fire on this one. I'll show you some of the aircraft that are fired.
So, of course, Donald Trump has called on Gavin Newsom to resign. We've been going over a lot of the data, a lot of the management, and there's a few really important examples. Joe Rogan, in July of last year, said he spoke with a firefighter who said, sooner or later that wind's going to sweep in and it's going to burn it all down.
Yeah.
Donald Trump talking to Joe Rogan, saying they're not getting the water to the south. It's very dry because these environmentalists, these conservationists. There was even, I believe, a week in advance warning of potential high fire season. The mayor goes off to Africa.
Yeah.
This is an
Ghana. She was
Ghana.
in Ghana, on her way to Ghana, on her way to Africa when all this started to go down.
It's just, when you look at all of it, the defunding of the fire department, the mismanagement, the refusal to deal with the brush, the tinder, the downed trees. I mean, this is like our 3rd day talking about it. It bears repeating. Fires happen, but this was mismanaged. And people are losing their lives because of it.
Yeah, they sure are. And this, of course, isn't the first time that Gavin Newsom has been made aware of the situation by Donald Trump. Back in Trump's first term, you could see Trump taking a tour of fire-ravaged areas with Newsom, telling him that he needed to clean up the forest floor, that he needed to deal with the water management. And at the time, the leftist media freaked out, and they were like, oh, Donald Trump says to clean the forest floor. Doesn't he know it's called the ground? And it's like, well, first of all, no, it's called the forest floor. But second of all, Newsom didn't heed any of those warnings then.
He didn't want to take any advice from Donald Trump. None of them do in California. And in fact, in 2014, they voted on some proposition. It was, I believe, close to $10 billion they were supposed to use to prepare and fill up their reservoirs, to have water to do this. And they didn't do it. They haven't done a single thing that they voted on a decade ago. And Gavin Newsom's, he's been governor for 5 years now, so half that time. And he's still governor of California today. He should be gone tomorrow. This is going to end his career. He should resign. Like Trump said, he should just be gone.
Where were they going to get the water from to fill up the reservoirs? Do you know much about it?
I don't. I am not sure, but what I do know, why the reservoirs haven't been filled up today, some of it's going out into the ocean. It's going right back out. They're not saving rainwater, right?
Yeah,
That's the most basic thing you could have is rainwater, right?
95% of all California rainwater runs into the ocean.
Right. So filling the reservoirs just means they need to control for the available supply and restrict some of it to the reservoirs.
We talked last night about the San Francisco Bay and why the water wasn't getting routed to the south. A lot of it, he said, is because they wanted to protect the fish. That is true, but also because of the salinity in the San Francisco Bay. If they stop pumping all that water, that rainwater, out into the bay, then all the salt water comes in, and then it toxifies the land for the farmers, and they can't grow crops. So I'm wondering if we could maybe divert like 10% of it.
They could
There's
build
also the Sacramento San Joaquin River Delta, those rivers and streams that are a little more inland,
so
that aren't getting where they need to go.
It was a smelt fish, right? It was this.
Yeah, I covered the drought 10 years ago when it was like the worst drought they'd seen in a long time, and I went through all these Delta farms and spoke with some of these farmers, and they said the concern isn't just the smelt; it's that if the water flow reduces into the Delta, there's this pressure. The water is flowing into the bay, which then goes off into the Delta, into the Central Valley, and goes. But the flow from the north of fresh water is pushing back. So the bay is brackish, the ocean is salt, and the Delta is fresh. If they divert the fresh water, the salt water flows in, and the farms are now salty, which you can't grow. However, you can build dams and infrastructure and ways to mitigate that. I think the issue is just, it's probably very difficult. And it's not necessarily even about that. That's a good point that Trump brings up. But like we were just mentioning, most of their rainwater runs off. They don't capture it. I think the real issue is that Democrats are looking at short-term gains. And look, I know people are going to be like, Tim's making it partisan. Dude, it's California. It's a supermajority of Democrats.
That's something that needs to be pointed out. Like, it's been the same party controlling the whole state for at least the past decade, probably two, and there's been zero opposition.
Democrat mayor, counties led by Democrats, Democrat governors.
They've got a list, and they're basically saying, okay, if we fill the reservoirs, how much time and energy will that take, and what's the point? Well, if we ever have a wildfire, we're going to need it. Yeah, but there's no wildfire now. Let's jump to this problem and ignore the long-term problem.
Well, you know, of course, it was a year ago that Gavin Newsom blocked some dam projects in order to allow salmon to swim more freely.
Unreal.
Well, I mean, we can't leave the salmon
you can't leave
less
the
freely.
Salmon. Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who's actually done a lot of research in this area, and she was talking also about the problem of when you do single species protection and how that does not consider the whole ecosystem and how everything works together. So even if you are pro-environmentalist and pro-little smelt fish or salmon, focusing on a single species and trying to protect species, yes, exactly, focusing on that and trying to protect just that without consideration of the broader.
Their environmental policies actually sometimes hurt the environment. Take EVs. I come from a purplish district, a lot of EVs in my district, so I'm not knocking it. There's
a lot of EVs around here.
But the weight of an EV and the weight of the rubber on the road makes it worse for the environment than a gasoline-powered vehicle. And so then you look at the right whale, for example, that they're saying is going to go extinct because of all the boats, the shipping. It's actually the windmills, more than likely, that they're putting in the Northeast in the ocean.
It's driving the whales crazy.
Right, and killing the whales.
And they make fun of Trump for saying this. It's like,
that's the truth.
It's the truth.
They're going to make Trump. They're going to make an issue out of anything that Trump says. If they can in any way point at Trump and say, look, he's saying something bad, he's saying something stupid. It doesn't matter if he's right or not. It's just they're going to say
he's been right about literally everything now, like everything. And it's like, okay, finally, can he catch a break? And they will not let up. And this is why they lost the election so badly, so poorly.
Speaking of the election, I want to point out we were talking about with the single party rule in California. That was something that Elon Musk had brought up. The concern that if Trump didn't win, we were going to have that here as a a situation for the whole country. And these kind of problems arise because of single party rule. You need legitimate opposition, because if you don't have it, everyone just falls in line and says yes, and everyone becomes a yes man, because the general consensus is what they're ascribing to, and that's a terrible thing for a society, and you can see that in California
This
now.
groupthink is which, and then you're afraid to come out for the reasonable, logical, common sense position. Gender would be an example of that, where you've gone off the rails, but you can't talk about it publicly because you wouldn't be part of the group, and they'll excoriate you and cancel you.
Somebody super chatted, Ted Thornton super chatted about desalination plants. The problem with desalination is that taking salt water out of the ocean doesn't actually, it creates problems as it solves them. So what happens is when they pull fresh water out of seawater, you end up with brine. They have to dump back the salt, which sinks to the bottom and goes under, and it kills the base layer of food in the food chain.
They should flash boil that ocean water and catch the condensation.
Well, the idea would be that if they don't return the brine into the ocean, perhaps there's no problem. They could dump the brine somewhere else and let it turn to salt, I guess. I went to the Carlsbad desalination plant, and environmental activists hate it because there's this big pump. You can walk up to it. You can see it dumping all of the brine into the water, which the heavy salinity goes to the bottom, and then it wipes out the lower life forms.
Yeah.
And then everything above it just dies off. So there's not simple solutions to a lot of these things. But anybody who wants to live in a desert is going to need real leadership. And the problem I see is if the Democrats in California came out and said, guys, tighten your belts. It's going to be a hard summer because we have to reserve this water in case of fires, they would never get reelected. The people of those places are going to be like, nah, I want my golf courses, I want my hot showers, and you can't take it from me.
In 2007, I was telling people to pee in the sink. I was like, you're a dude, pee in the sink. Stop flushing your toilet.
Greenpeace does that.
Greenpeace tells people to pee in their sink?
No, Greenpeace. So this is what a Greenpeace employee told me this. I worked for Greenpeace in Chicago. We didn't have this. But they said that in California, the toilets have a basin on top, and you step up and go number one on the top, and then you go number two on the bottom, and you use the number one to flush the number two.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they told me. Look,
I've never heard of such a thing.
we have a well here, so people who live in the country don't have to worry about running out of water because we have water from the rain and the rivers. But the people who live in the coasts who have finite amount of water for the big cities, they got to think about that stuff, I guess.
And the data centers are out there. There's a lot of technology, and the energy and all that production.
I've heard that they have been moving away from water cooling, and they've been using other methods. I'm not extremely versed in what they do use, but I've heard that I heard some people complaining about the Silicon Valley was the actual problem, and if I understand correctly, that it's not, because they've been moving away from using
that would
water.
would help some of the pressure there.
I want to pull up this tweet from Anna Kasparian, of all people. We've got this viral video from More Perfect Union with 2 million views. Take a look at this. I'm sorry, 8.5 million. What's going up? And in it, they say one billionaire couple owns almost all the water in California. The Resnicks secretly seized control. And that's what they're trying to blame. They're trying to say it's the rich people. Anna Kasparian says California, and especially LA, is controlled by Democrats. They are responsible. No more passing the buck. Our mayor, who was in Ghana as fires exploded in our city, cut the fire budget by $17 million. Endless amounts of money funneled to BS scammer homeless nonprofits. We're the highest taxed yet. We have encampments and squalor everywhere. Even worse, we don't have enough firefighters to respond to the absolute disaster we're experiencing right now. Rather than conserve the record rain we got last year, we drained it into the ocean. We are a failing city run by a sick excuse for our local government. You want to radicalize people against the modern Democratic Party? Send them to LA. Woo!
Epic.
Wow.
Totally epic. And one of the things that she's talking about with the LA mayor's budget, they took away money from the fire department, but they funded things like a trans cafe for $100,000.
What's a trans cafe?
That's my first question is, what is a trans cafe,
Does it
number
mean
one? And
trans
two, why
people
is
are
the government
working
paying
there?
for
They
it?
don't sell coffee there.
They don't sell low acidity coffee there.
Well, you also have, so the Daily Caller picked this story up, gay choirs, trans cafes, and social justice art. What LA spent money on while cutting its fire budget.
Like, why is the government paying for that? Number one, it's mind-boggling, but this is what happens when you run to a Democrat-run utopia. This is what they do to you.
This, it's funny because communists all say, to each according to their needs, from each according to their means. But these people are the least likely to work and the most likely to beg. They demand, they get free stuff, and they also don't want to do work. They're the opposite of what they're claiming to represent.
They don't want to contribute to the system
Right.
that they want to benefit from.
Like in this situation, they're like, where's the fire department? Where's Big Daddy to come save me? And hopefully this wakes a lot of people up.
Did you see, and then we talked about this the other day, did you see the tweet from the guy who was like looking for a private fire department to protect our homes?
Yeah, I
And
thought
the left
that was
attacked him for
really
it.
wild. Yeah.
I'm like, who cares if a guy asks for a private
Yeah.
service? Why is that a problem?
I replied to that person. I was like, "You're the crab that pulls the other crab down back into the bucket." That's the
Which person?
The person that was complaining about it. Someone had
Right.
taken a screen cap of the tweet, and they were like, "Can you believe this?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, "You're the crab that pulls the other crabs down."
But of course, I mean, this is how it used to be, right? There used to be private fire insurance companies. And so if you go around in old areas, like in Philadelphia, the old houses that are there from colonial times, you can see on the side of buildings, there'll be like stars or whatever, like old stars or different patterns. And those were put there by the fire insurance companies so that the fire insurance company would know if that was a house that they had insured and were contracted to protect. So, I mean, we could go back to something like that for sure, where everybody has their own fire department. You know, I mean, I get this guy who would pay whatever it takes to protect
If
his
it were
home.
private, it'd be run more efficiently. You can imagine that. There are places in the country that have private ambulatory services. Like if you go to Brooklyn, the Jewish community there, and it's that what they have done to provide service to their needs, to their community, is so much faster and so much quicker than a government ambulance could show up. They have a truck and it's there in seconds sometimes.
Sure. Yeah,
I mean,
it sure
it's
is.
pretty incredible.
I would want to maintain a socialized fire department as well as private. If you want to go private, because I'm concerned with like private companies being like, hey, you don't have insurance or arson, like literally them starting fires so that you have to buy their service.
It's like
for profit.
Ryan Long's sketch where he and Danny were Antifa window repair, where in the middle of the night they just like Antifa and smash windows, and the next day show up to fix them.
Well, this is the Monty Python sketch. You know, it's a great country you have here. It'd be a shame if something were to happen
You
to
should
it.
definitely be able to supplement whatever you want for your community.
Yeah. Private.
I mean, I got to be honest, like when the insurance companies started pulling out of California, it was the perfect opportunity for a venture capitalist to launch a private fire department and be like, yo,
Yeah.
we'll bring in a bunch of emergency, like, you know, what you want for fighting the fires is water, obviously. But I would guarantee you people would love some chemical flame retardants right now.
Well,
Anything to put the fire out.
Yeah, that's another thing too, and that's something that the government could be doing. You know, even while they're pursuing their dumb environmental things, is they could be working to reduce the ignitability of the structures, reduce the amount of hazardous fuels, like by clearing out the brush and things like that. But also just the way that homes are built. You know, like keep the brush away from your home, keep the fences, you know, not quite so close together. There's a lot of things that you could do, but people don't want to change how they live either. You know, people want everything.
I think, I'm excited if the disaster is a disaster, but outside of that, the politics. The argument was being made that Trump only has about 18 months to get his agenda through because
Then it's the midterms.
once we get to the midterms,
We have a very short runway.
the squishy Republicans are all of a sudden going to back off and say, I can't do anything weird.
And there's such a thin majority.
But with Anna Kasparian tweeting like this, I'm kind of like, just let the Democrats keep talking. And the midterms are going to be smooth sailing for the Republicans.
I don't think it's going to be nearly right now. I think it's not going to be the bloodbath that the mainstream media wants to tell you. It's going to be in 26. The rate that we're going, bold leadership is needed for this country, and people are fed up with it. They are so fed up with what's going on. They don't like it. That's why they're leaving California. They're moving to South Carolina, by the way. My district's like the number 10 fastest growing district in the country. They're all coming from like New York and California, Ohio, Northeast. But they're moving out of there at such a high rate. It's insane.
I mean, you look at people like Fetterman, the way that he's been.
He's been very smart. He's the smartest Democrat on the Hill right now.
Yeah, and then there's also people like Richie Torres, who's.
I think he's doing a good job.
Yeah, and but
his messaging.
Exactly. That's the point that I'm making. He's addressing the things that have caused Democrats the problems, which is not focusing on things that the average person worries about. This is something that I've said on the show before. Like, the left loves to talk about centering the margins, right? The marginalized people we have to center. We have to center the marginalized people. If you do that long enough, then people stop voting for you because you need a majority in a democracy to win elections.
Well, everyone,
And their problem is they only have two. They have one in the House who speaks a little common sense and one in the Senate. Everyone else is off the rails. Totally off the rails, which
close.
benefits us.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's so happy to center minority voices and, you know, all of this, whatever else, diversity, this and that, until it's impacting their own situations.
Let's say, let me pull up this video.
Yeah.
So this is a video that Sean, who does social media stuff for us, shout out to Sean Frasick.
Oh my gosh.
It's got 299 views. So I don't think a lot of people have seen this video. Listen to this.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, are more than just words. They represent a framework for creating fair and equitable environments in the fire service where everyone has a seat at the table. But what do these concepts truly mean, and how do they work together to build stronger fire departments? Diversity is the foundation. It's about recognizing and embracing the different backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences that make up a community. In the fire service, this means having a workforce that reflects the community it serves, bringing in different ideas, approaches, and solutions to solve complex problems. But
it then immediately just shows a black man. And what really offends me, this is a really great bit from Adam Carolla, where he's talking to Newsom. And Newsom's like, black and Latino people don't have access to checking accounts. And Adam Carolla's like, why?
Yeah, what are you
He's like,
talking
well,
about?
I don't know. And he's like, is it their genetics? And he's like, no, of course not. He's like, so then why is it them? What's happening to them? He's like, I don't know. It says different ideas, and then it shows a black guy. It's like
Solutions, and then it shows his face.
Yeah.
right. These people believe that diversity, they believe that ideas are skin deep. It is the epitome of racism.
Well, if you're a fireman and you're in there with all your gear on, you don't care what color the next guy is. And you just care if he can lug the gear,
care
pick
about
up
the
a
gender.
body, and get out of
The
there.
whole premise that this is built on is that diversity is the most important thing when you're dealing with a fire department. That's absolutely wrong. I reject it entirely. The most important thing is competence, capability. You have to put out fires. You have to save lives. I don't care what color the person that's picking up my family members out of the burning
Elon.
building.
I care about their muscle density.
Yeah,
I care that
that's
they can
it.
pick people up and carry
Exactly.
them.
Well, Elon just posted one of these from the LA Fire Department because they care more about how you look than if whether or not the question really should only be. And I replied to him on his posting of this one was that, are you qualified to put out a fire or not? That's really all I care about. I care about nothing else. Nothing else. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what color your skin. I don't care.
I care about what you look like in a certain sense. How
Which would
tall?
be-
How tall are you?
Maybe your
How
muscles.
big are your muscles?
Right.
Right. That's a if the joke I made this several years ago is if I'm in a burning building and I'm gasping for air and I see the door open up and then as the smoke moves away, there's a 5-foot tall woman weighing 100 pounds. I'd be like, Lord help me. I want to see a glistening,
You're never getting out of there
ripped,
alive.
6'3", chiseled, tall, dark, and handsome man with massive muscles, and he goes,
He can look like Sloth for all I care,
and
man.
he says, "Don't worry, little buddy, I got you." I'll be like, "Oh, thank God!" And he can pick me up with one hand. I want a capable person who can carry weight, and women can do this, but it is much, much less likely.
There are fewer of us because
Right.
of our physiology, because of science, because of biology. There are few of us that can do that.
So if they decide they're going to hire women for the sake of hiring women, and you end up with small 100-pound women, Lord help me. Did you guys see the video? I mean, there's actually tons of them where it's two policewomen trying to arrest a guy and he fights them off and then runs
that
away.
did not do well.
Look at look at the Trump assassination attempt in Butler Township, Pennsylvania.
The little short ladies.
Right, his chest and face and head were completely exposed because they were too small. They couldn't protect him.
And I respect them for doing the job.
Correct.
But you need people who are bigger than Trump. Not necessarily because they're better at being guards, but because their bodies block bullets.
Look, if you-
and it's kind of crass, but it's true. That's part of the job.
If you look at like the Navy SEALs, they're all big gorilla looking dudes. They're all big, 6 foot plus.
Don't stare too long. Those are killers.
lots of muscle. Like that's the kind of dude that you want to do the kind of things that they ask the Navy SEALs and direct action forces to do.
But this is all part of the thing
this
too,
is the
of
one.
totally diminishing the working class and saying that working class men are beneath everybody else and are less than. And then as soon as there's a fire that breaks out, everyone's like, wait, where's the big working class guys who are willing to run into fire to save everybody? Well, you hooked them all on fentanyl and took away their jobs and told them they can't have families. And now what are you fighting for?
They're like Adam Carolla and couldn't. Adam, go ahead.
He has the story where he said he had to wait 7 years to be able to take the exam, and he's waiting in line, and there's a black woman behind him, and he says, "When did you apply?" And she goes, "Wednesday."
Wednesday.
So he had to wait 7 years.
Who was that?
Adam Carolla.
Oh my God.
You want to be a firefighter? They said, no, white people.
Really?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Let's check out this video. This is a video posted by End Wokeness of the Los Angeles Fire Department Assistant Chief, Kristen Larson. Check this out. Your blood will boil.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Unreal.
Literally, their
Unreal.
job is to help rescue people out of
This
fires.
is the ideology
Only about
of these
5%
leftists.
of working firefighters are women. That might be 5% too many.
Unbelievable.
I mean, 5% makes sense.
It should be a small number. And
Yeah,
it's
because-
weird that it's like that 4 women are heading the entire department.
Look,
I mean, I'm not, I'm not a sexist over here, but it's a little weird.
I've been to many countries. Okay, let me tell you. I went to Thailand, and it was Chinese New Year. We went to a market district. It was a long street with beautiful decorations, and there were thousands of people. And I noticed I could see over all of their heads. Standing there, all of the Thai people were, on average, substantially shorter, and I could see. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Later in life, I went to Sweden, and I was a very tiny
Totally
person.
different experience.
So if you want to get like some large Nordic Viking woman on the fire department, I'm totally for it, right? A woman opens a door and she's ripped 6 foot tall and she picks me up. I'm like, save me.
Thank you, Hilda.
That's totally fine.
For sure.
But this means in reality, it's going to be about 5% of women.
Or less. I mean,
Or less.
Yeah, or less. So this is crazy that they don't put saving lives. That's the mission of any fire.
Well, also
You got yourself in the wrong place, if we have to
Right.
save you.
Yeah.
But the current LA fire chief also coming into office talked about how she was super inspired by creating more opportunities for diversity on the force, and that was her big thing, and that it was super important also that she was a member of the LGBTQ community, and she wanted to bring in more gay firefighters because apparently who you're sleeping with makes a really big difference on whether or not you can do this job.
And the problem is this woke mind virus, we'll call it, is going everywhere. It's in our military. I mean, you're seeing this.
It's in your bathroom.
It's not in my bathroom. It's definitely not in my bathroom, nor any other bathroom on the hill on the house side, at least anyway. We got that done, and I hope to ban it everywhere across the country. But they're talking about doing this to airlines too.
They pulled the Title IX updates. The federal judge said that, throughout the Title IX updates, so that was pretty good. The Biden administration.
That was a good development today,
I think, pulled the proposed changes to sports under
Yes.
Title IX.
The court
and
said
you
it
guys
was-
have 18 months to get this out of everything and
And
get
to
our
get it
country
right.
back on track.
What's the Title
Yeah.
IX thing you're talking about?
So Title IX, the Biden administration's Department of Education changed Title IX of the Civil Rights Act, which was basically created to have equal funding for women's academics and athletics in schools.
It would allow men to participate in women's sports, allow men in locker rooms.
But there were 2 separate things. They just blanket made the regulations that any school that receives federal funding has to allow men in women's bathrooms, locker rooms, what have you. But there was so much public pushback and outcry about their regulation requiring those schools to allow men to play in women's sports that they didn't put that as part of their regulation and made a proposed second thing for that they were planning to push through. They were unable to ever push that one through. So that was withdrawn, and now a federal judge threw out the bathroom.
This is
thing.
government forced sexual abuse, as far as I'm concerned. If
Yeah.
you're forcing Riley Gaines to undress in front of LeBron James in the locker room, like
It's not
that
good.
is sexual abuse, and that's what they were trying to do, Biden and Harris.
It's worse than that. These individuals, many of them, are admittedly fetishists.
Yes.
Without getting
Leah
too
Thomas was a fetishist.
Yeah, without getting too graphic, because
What is it called? Autogynephilia.
Autogynephilia.
Yes,
that's
I just
right.
learned that term about a month ago.
So if it's LeBron and Riley, we understand what's like, hey man, people are going to be uncomfortable. Like LeBron probably is going to be uncomfortable being like, look, let's keep it professional here. He's a professional guy. But these individuals, many of them, there was a viral tweet from, I think it was Brianna Wu, mentioning that trans people get heavily involved in
Brianna Wu's with the Free Press now, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of trans people are involved in sex work because they eroticize this. That
It's a fetish. It's a
fetish.
sexual
It's an
fetish.
objectification.
So when
It's an
you-
arousal for
when
them.
you put a woman in a locker room and a guy is getting off on it, that's substantially worse than just having like a unisex dressing room.
Right. That is worse.
No, that is 100%. And I'm going to Sarah McBride's district tomorrow night. I'm going to go give a speech. He dresses like a woman, and he's been, the media fawned all over him. He made his political career taking selfies in the women's bathroom, bragging about how he's a woman now and should invade our private spaces. And it's sexual abuse, in my opinion. And it's a mental health disorder. If they want to use a bathroom, go find a mental institute and go there.
That is the correct academic term, in fact, mental health disorder. And there was an interesting controversy where trans activists wanted to get gender dysphoria removed from what's called the DSM-5. And then prominent liberal activists immediately came out and said, stop. If this is no longer classified as a mental disorder, you cannot get prescriptions for it.
That's right.
So
Big Pharma couldn't allow
Do you
that,
guys
right?
think
Big
that-
Pharma's making a lot of money off
Do you guys
this.
think that the people of Delaware should not have been permitted to elect Sarah McBride to Congress?
It's up to the voters. It's First Amendment. It's a vote. It's up to the voters to decide who to elect, but he doesn't have the right to invade my spaces.
I got to be honest,
as a woman.
I don't think the voters in Delaware knew that Sarah McBride was a man.
Really?
Yeah. When you watch the McBride commercials, it's just Sarah McBride. And
You know, Sarah McBride, when first coming out, was I think 2012, and Joe Biden was one of the first people to congratulate McBride because McBride was an intern in the Obama administration.
That's crazy. Well, we have an all-female like locker room up at the Hill where members can work out and change. And I was there this week, and I was thinking to myself, my God, if we had allowed this to happen, he would be in here right now as I'm getting dressed and changing. And it's just the government forcing this on us, and they're totally okay with it. I mean, my next thing is to make sure that we enforce it. How do we ensure that this is enforced and we protect women and girls everywhere? But I will be in Delaware tomorrow night. I would be in Delaware tomorrow night, letting all of Delaware know this woman is a man and should not be celebrated for his sexual fantasies and his mental illness.
How would you propose
diversity?
to?
real quick, we just played that diversity firefighter clip. I want to actually finish the clip because there's something really important that's said in it that pertains to this conversation.
Needs and works to provide what they require to succeed.
So real quick, just the context again is this is a firefighter diversity, equity, inclusion educational video.
In practice, equity means addressing systemic barriers and providing personalized tools and resources to help each individual thrive. Whether it's hiring practices or access to training and development, equity creates an environment where everyone can grow and achieve success. Inclusion, the ultimate goal, is about creating a culture where every team member feels valued, respected, and supported. It's not just about being part of the team. It's about belonging. Inclusion ensures that diverse voices are heard, respected, and considered in decision-making. It fosters an environment where individuals can be their authentic selves without...
That was it right there. That's the point.
It fosters an environment where individuals can be their authentic selves without fear of exclusion or discrimination. Together, diversity...
Literally discrimination.
Your
DEI is
authentic
discrimination.
selves.
You should never go out into the world expecting to be your authentic self and nobody's going to mess with you. You should never expect that.
It's a strange, it's a strange
like your authentic
world.
self is, for yourself and your family.
Look,
and, like,
everybody
With no
should
clothes
have their
on.
authentic
and-
self at home.
Sure.
That's where you can be
Or
your
with your
authentic self.
friends
That's
or
where
what
you
have
can
you,
fart
you
if
know?
you want.
But,
That's
like,
where you can
you
have
don't
bad breath.
expect
That's
to-
where you can have halitosis. That's
you don't
where you can
expect to
pick
go
your
to
nose.
work and be
That-
your authentic self.
Yeah.
Like your boss doesn't want that.
This
Your
is-
boss wants you to do a job.
Don't give me that authentic self stuff. Everybody has a forward-facing face that they put on when they go out in public.
A t-shirt.
And it's because that's how society works, right? The idea
It's
that
the
you
civil
can
religion.
just
You're
that
supposed
you
to
can
go
just
out there and be part of life with everyone else.
Just the idea that you can just go and walk around being your authentic self, no matter how other people are, how it affects other people, is absolutely ridiculous. It is a total innovation. It's only been something that people talk about in the past 5-10 years, 10-15 years or so. No, don't be your authentic self, because your authentic self is disgusting.
You can take your authentic self to Canada.
Yeah,
If
I mean,
you-
somewhere else.
Aspects
take
of
it
yourself,
with Canada.
obviously, you want to like let open up and become a more real human. But like nudity, the authentic self argument is a slope to nudity and nudists and people being like, I don't need to wear clothes. I'm
that's
being
just-
my honest self.
That's being light about it. Your authentic self, okay. I want to hear what Antifa has to say when a bunch of white supremacists want to be their authentic selves marching around in public.
Yeah,
They don't want
ridiculous.
it. What they're advocating for is that they get to do whatever they want, whenever they want, with no no consequences.
I thought that when they were talking about equity too, they said it's a opportunity to, it's right to use your personal, I don't know how she phrased
equity?
it. Your personal efforts to provide equity, but then they're
Equity?
using public funds to do it. That's not their personal.
Equity
if you
means-
want to provide equity for people, if I want to make an environment where we all have an opportunity, okay. But if I'm going to use public funds to do it, you got a big problem.
Equity is not equality. Equity means everybody has the same outcomes. So what they're saying is everybody's all the same. There's no one that's better at anything or worse at anything. And when you take that idea and you apply it to a job like police officer or fireman, you end up with dead people.
I got an idea. We are going to put on a music show, rock concert. And of course, because we believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would like to make sure we're inclusive of all different ideas. Libby, why don't you tell us how you think the rock concert should be put off? And we'll ignore Phil's opinion as a platinum rock star because he's a white man.
That's great. I think that we should have a tap routine and we should do some musical numbers.
You should also get some,
I personally would like to sing an aria, even though I have never sung opera before.
let's get some architects
White
in there to
man
sing
sticking his
also.
nose right in,
I
trying
think
to talk over
definitely
Libby.
architect.
Yeah, but he's
Yeah, I think that's a great
neurodivergent.
idea.
Yeah, we got to make sure that we get stonemasons in there to sing, especially the ones that have never had a chance to sing before. We got to make sure everyone gets a chance to sing at this concert. No, you want the best. That's why you do it.
I saw a video where someone was actually arguing, it was a black woman, that DEI means that when they're practicing medicine, their tribal holistic practices should be considered the same as medical doctors.
I've seen this.
Alternative way. It's called alternative ways of knowing. They say alternative forms of knowledge, alternative ways of
What
knowing.
is alternative forms of knowledge?
Alternative
is-
facts.
It's a purely relativist perspective.
What does
that mean?
Yeah,
Where
it's
everything
in the
relativist.
medical community, in the scientific community, what does that mean?
So it's relative. Louis right. It is relativist. Oftentimes they'll look at traditional medicine. So they're talking about things like Native Americans or whatever they call it, First Nations or whatever the
is that what we call it now? First
apparently,
Nations?
yeah, that's what they call it in Canada.
That's
So
I've
but
never heard that before. First
Justin
Nations.
Trudeau says it a lot.
Okay.
But
I don't listen.
but
to
the
that. I don't listen to that guy.
Look, essentially, it boils down to they're talking about witch doctors. Okay, they're like, this is these ways of knowing have been passed down for generation and generation through tribal peoples and stuff, and it's something that we should accept into our lexicon, and it's something that we should acknowledge. I reject that entirely. I completely and totally only want verifiable scientific evidence, things that are repeatable in a controlled test.
But this house, we believe in science.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the scientific method is flawed. It says if you can't reproduce it, then it doesn't exist. And they'll be like, if you can't, but there are miracles. Like things happen once, and you're like, whoa, how did that happen? I still can't figure it out.
That's alternative ways of knowing. And you can believe that, that's fine. But when it comes to like applying it to everybody, you can't say, well, this one time there was a miracle, so we're going to say everybody should do this.
For instance, Reiki, healing hands, like that's over history has been, people have said, yes, there are healers.
I
don't think you should exclude it.
I had
but
Reiki
I don't
healing
think,
one time. It was
I think you
cool.
should absolutely exclude
I would
it.
absolutely.
From
I
like
wouldn't
insurance
put
and
it.
stuff?
I wouldn't put it in
Yes,
insurance
absolutely.
or
But what if it
medical
works?
stuff, but it helped.
Prove it.
I thought
it.
it was
How do you
cool one
prove-
time.
You do it. You heal
do
somebody.
it over and over and over.
Like
and if you
anecdotally?
can't if
No,
you
not
can't repeat
anecdotally.
it-
Like
Listen.
you have to be able to run a control experiment, and you
Right.
have to determine through that process that it's actually effective every single time.
I
like Advil.
I was reading about how people used to drink mercury to cure syphilis. It didn't.
Oh my gosh!
It didn't
why
work,
why
right?
were we reading this? Why were we?
Oh, I read a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
read
read
tons of stuff.
everything.
Well, so antibiotics is fascinating to me, especially around the conversation that antibiotic-resistant strains are emerging,
Yep.
and we may have to move on to something different.
Yeah.
And so something came up on the show. We were talking about people drinking mercury to cure syphilis. It didn't actually do it. What happens is syphilis goes dormant, and so people thought they were getting better.
And
Now
they were
imagine-
spreading syphilis.
Oh yeah. Imagine. Well,
And
actually, if
making
it's-
themselves crazy. They were making themselves
Right, they were
literally
poisoning
mad as
themselves.
hatters. Yeah.
So imagine what would happen if you went back 500 years with antibiotics and said, take this, trust me, it works. Like, people have no idea. They would take it and feel better, and they would assume it's true. Over a long enough period of time, we now know, because you get a bacterial infection. Or actually, did you guys see that show? It was like 1897 or whatever it was called, the Taylor Sheridan show. Was that what it was called, 1897? I probably got the year wrong. Serge on that microphone.
That was popular for a minute.
Well, it was a miniseries. But the story ends when the chick gets shot with an arrow, and the Native Americans would dip the arrowheads in crap to make it infectious.
That in Vietnam
Oh,
too.
that's right. That's
and then they're like, she's going to get an infection and die. And it's like, wow, that's pretty wild because today you go to the doctor and some like fat nurse would like roll in her chair, open a drawer and grab a bottle of pills and be like, you'll live. And it's just there and available for us. I don't want to go to a world where they're like, let's dance around in a circle and throw rose petals in the air until the demons go
Some
away.
of it's just diet. Like the diet is the alternative medicine. Is like, hey, fix your
That's
diet.
fair.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd like to get insured for like healthy eating.
Well,
I'm not changing.
truly, because that's what's making us sick.
I feel
If
like
you
we
read
should
the
not need as
label,
much insurance.
RFK Jr. fan right here. If you read the label on your food, it's making us sick, making us fatter, more cancer, more illness.
I agree
more
completely.
expensive healthcare.
But Ian, I'm not gonna like change my diet for a broken arm. Okay, like there are no.
There's foods that'll reduce inflammation and stuff.
No.
Hold on.
I reject.
Wait. Phil, I got to stop you. You probably don't need to change your diet because you have a good one. But if there's somebody who is eating ho-hos and ding-dongs as their principal meal every day and they go to
They're
the
gonna get
doctor,
sick.
the doctor's going to say, look, your arm's not going to heal unless you're eating real food. You got to stop eating the ho-hos and the ding-dongs.
Yeah, inflammation. Sugar will cause inflammation.
Ian,
So
a broken bone is not just inflammation. A
not
broken
just
bone
inflammation.
is broken bone.
you want to regrow the bone. You want like
You need calcium.
phosphorus and calcium, zinc.
You need a cast. You need the bone to be set, and you need a cast. Is what you need.
Right.
100%.
Okay.
But it heals from the inside.
Inflammation. You still have
There's
inflammation.
still a
You
fair
break bone.
point that if you're eating a bad diet, you're not going to heal
You
properly.
guys are all too kind.
All right, let's jump this.
I am not nice.
Let's jump to this next story that will get you all good and riled up. Biden says federal government will cover 100% of costs for initial LA fire recovery. Thank heavens. You know, when that hurricane ripped through the Trump districts, I'm glad they didn't help anyone. And now that it's all progressives, largely 80%, who are being impacted, I'm glad to hear that Biden's going to pay for all of it.
Did your district get smashed up by the
No,
hurricane?
we did not. We're on the coast, so we skated on that one. But the upper part of my state got totally torn up. Counties and cities were cutting their way out. That much damage was done. And I know people both in North and South Carolina. I'm in South Carolina, but North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee that applied for their $750 check that had thousands of dollars of damage on their property and got rejected, got turned down. And so it's clear this is, buying votes right now, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it in conservative states, southern states. We weren't going to help people who got damaged by the hurricane. People are still begging for hotel vouchers. There was someone in Asheville tonight. I sent it over to Chuck Edwards, his office today, or we were supposed to be doing that on our way over here, actually. But people are still don't have a place to live in Asheville, North Carolina because of the hurricane and can't get hotel vouchers to stay. They're going to be homeless. People that lost everything. And now, because you live in a Democrat state, everything's being paid for the next.
Well, these are also the people that donated to Biden and Harris. So this is like the kickback.
With the
That's right.
When the
you get what you pay for.
with the hurricanes, what did they get? The people that were affected by the hurricane, was there government funding?
Well, this real quick. This is specifically they're talking about debris cleanup and like reconstruction stuff. I don't know if they're saying they're giving people money. I'm saying they're allocating resources to LA with higher priority than these districts that were damaged by the hurricane that are still suffering.
Yeah, I mean, the southern states are still suffering. The places that got hit hardest, there are still trees on the ground in some of those places. And some people, particularly in western North Carolina, don't have a home still. And that's what's so crazy and very, very sad. And now we're going to have devastation. These people are losing everything in California. I mean, everything. And it's a disaster, but they're benefiting greater than the southern states with the hurricane.
And the federal
victims.
government's coming in to supplement because the state government ran the insurance company out of town because they were trying to do price controls on what the insurance cost of homeowners insurance was going to be. But the reason that the insurance companies were trying to raise the prices is because they were doing assessments as to the risk of fire and stuff like that because of the policies that the state had about
Well, and also the state of California spent last year $23 billion on illegal immigrants. I would love to know how far that $23 billion would go today to help these folks that are devastated from these fires across LA. How far that would go? A very long way. But instead, open borders, billions of dollars to illegals, America last.
I don't get it. I know we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but I got to bring it up. You had a bill. Criminal, sex offender, illegal immigrants got to go. Democrats are like, nah, that's all right. They can stay. I don't understand how this country has gotten to this point where there is a very clear, rational, logical, Maybe we should have water in our reservoirs for fires. Maybe this country should give, equal funding to repairs for any district, regardless of what it is. How are we at this point where Democrats are just overt in their willful destruction of the country?
100%. And there were 158 Democrats last year in September voted against deporting criminal, illegal aliens who are here, who are convicted rapists, who are pedophiles, who are murderers. They said, nah, man, they should just stay in the United States. That's what they voted on. And we've refiled the bill last Friday. It's one of 12 bills in the House Rules package that are being considered right now, one of 12 bills. So it'll be voted on next week. And we'll see if Democrats are willing to apologize now and vote for it this time. We were reaching out to Senator Fetterman's office this week, too, because he might be the only Democrat that logically might actually co-sponsor a bill like that. Once we get it over to the Senate and support it, it's just logic. Like, if you're here illegally, you're a rapist, you're a murderer, you're a pedophile, you're the first one to go. Like, if we're talking about deporting everybody, let's start with the worst of the worst, and that is these guys.
Similarly, in the UK, there was a vote on the inquiry into the grooming gangs, and the Labour Party said no.
2/3 of the MPs voted against. Yep.
It sounds
I just
kind
don't
of
understand. How is this possible?
Yeah, was it
are these
attached?
literal demons?
Was it like a bill attached to something else?
No, my bill was just standalone, single subject bill in September. It got a vote, came out of Judiciary. It is coming out again next week. It's HR 30. Last year was HR 7909. It'll be back out. I had 51 Democrats vote for it last time, 158 vote against. But we just saw 2 nights ago, the Laken-Riley Act, 159 Democrats voted against the Laken-Riley Act, which was deporting thieves and robbers who are here illegally, shoplifters, basically.
Why?
And they voted against that.
Why? Because they say why?
It's the politics of nice and now. Like, we need people that are we need people that aren't afraid to do things that aren't immediately nice, that have a long-term goal that is a positive outcome for society, as opposed to a short-term goal that is a positive outcome for the immediate person that they're talking about affecting.
At the end of the day, they want them to vote in our elections. They want to fundamentally change the face of the country in any way, shape, or form. They want one party, and they will do anything at all costs, including trying to kill Donald Trump over and over again until they are successful, because that is the world that we live in right now. They want to destroy the fabric of our country, and that's what they're doing bit by bit. This is the communist, fascist, Marxist way, is to disable a country one bit at a time. They have been very successful at local politics for decades. We have gotten behind on that. And, thank God we have groups like Moms for Liberty and other groups that are out there that are going bit by bit back to the school boards, back to the county councils, back to the city councils, and trying to rebuild what is so broken in this country. And we have to have bold leadership. I'm done being nice. I came into Congress being very nice, being fair, being very welcoming, giving everybody a shot. I am sick and tired of it. I've been red pilled now for 4 years. And I'm like, I'm done. The media, I am done. These leftists, these Democrats, they are bad for the country.
Based on where we are right now, where do you think we end up in 8 years?
Well, if we're successful I'd say, I don't even know that we have 18 months. I think we have 12. And I don't know, it depends on where we get there. But if we can make some really tough decisions over the next 12 years, conservative, bold, we have to deport people. If we don't deport people, what was this for? We have to look at spending, the cost of groceries and all those things. And we have to protect women. That's what I'm doing with the Sarah McBride thing. That we win on all these fronts, but we have to do it. And I don't know that the Senate has a stomach for it. I think the House does. I don't know if the Senate does.
I think Pam Bondi and Kash Patel need to launch a series of investigations into the lawfare against Trump and conservatives. And I think there's a lot of instances of what would be described as conspiracy against rights. So the case, Donald Trump, the sentencing, again, we'll talk about this in a second. This is very clearly fake. And if the federal government doesn't intervene to shut down what is clearly a rogue state, then we cease to exist.
People have to be arrested. People have to be indicted. They have to be investigated. They have to be charged with crimes, and they have to serve jail time. That is where we are right now, because if the government can get away with it, and they are, and they're spitting in our faces as they do it, they can get away with everything. And at some point, and I sit on these hearings, like I'm in Congress because I was fed up and angry with the direction of the country, but I sit in these hearings and we have these fights. people get their information on X and post their videos and do their media interviews, but then nothing ever happens. Nobody ever goes to jail. No one ever gets really, truly investigated. No one ever gets impeached. Truly, it's just the same thing that always happens. But this time has to be different. If we don't do that, we're going to be in the same place in 8 years from now where we are today. And I love what's happening with the MAGA movement and what we have with X right now and Elon. Like, you all are the media. You guys are the media now. You're telling the truth. You're putting the truth out there every single day, all day.
It's very decentralized. And when I see the ratings for CNN in the gutter, the only concern is YouTube props them up. So when you go to youtube.com, they put CNN, MSNBC up on top. Fox News too, but Fox News is okay. They're not perfect, but they're good. I like Jesse Waters. I like Gutfeld. They're fantastic. So we're still up against CNN, MSNBC. We can rag on them all day and night, and we should. Cable is dead, but they're still. And my fear is,
and they censor on YouTube. I mean, they're censoring conservative.
So Rumble's
voices.
Fantastic. We love Rumble too. We put all of our videos. So guys, Timcast.com, all of our videos. Rumble's infrastructure. Our membership, when you sign up at Timcast.com, uses parallel economy. Let me stress this. If you want to support the likes of Dan Bongino and Chris Pavlovsky and Rumble and the things they're building, Timcast.com, sign up to be a member. Parallel economy is the financial service we use. It is, I don't know who founded it, but I know Dan's involved and Rumble are like the principal stakeholders in this financial transaction service. So you're not just helping us, you're helping them, you're building the parallel economy, and we have to create spaces they can't shut us down and censor us from.
Yeah, mesh networks, because central controllers are dangerous, whether it's your ISP or your website like YouTube, whether it's Verizon that can turn off your access to the internet. And then
That's a lot harder to do, but I would meet you halfway and say decentralized media, which is where we are, so that if everybody's relying on one show, it takes one national security letter to shut down a news story. But if you've got 1,000 news shows, there's no way you're going to suppress the information.
There's no way. The truth gets out there one way or another. It eventually does, but that's why the network of influencers that you all have helped create over the years is so important, because that information gets out so much bigger, better, faster, more than we ever would have before. And every conspiracy theory that's been out there, it's turned out to be true.
That's the funny thing.
That's everything that Trump has said has turned out to be right. And it's like people are just so fed up and sick of the media.
The meme now is, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth?
Couple of months, yeah.
Couple of months.
Yeah, that's
pretty wild.
That's factual.
I'm at the point where I'm with Joe Rogan on this one. He did a comedy bit. The media attacked him for it. He was like, I'm ready to believe the moon landing's fake.
That's what I was just going to say, dude. The moon landing happened. The moon landing happened.
Like,
but
so
Stanley
much.
Kubrick made fake footage. Get it over it.
Well, I certainly think we went to the moon.
Many times.
I'm just saying, like, I'm at the point where it's like, I don't believe anything they say. And it's like, Luke Rudkowski has a great shirt. It's a meme, and it said, I used to believe in aliens until the government told me to.
Right.
I don't know what to believe
Well,
anymore.
I mean, I'm a part of the mix on the Hill. I have a front row seat to this. I don't believe that half the time what we're being fed. Like the drone thing right now. I don't believe anything the government's saying right now.
Did you see what Trump said? He said on January 21st, I'll tell y'all what I find out.
When they tell you guys about,
I have a lot of respect for that.
When they
Wait.
Do you think he'll release the JFK stuff?
I hope, but what if on January 21st, Trump just comes out and he goes, so apparently China's got gravitic drones that are flying through the air and launching from the Atlantic, and then he pulls up the episode of Sean Ryan, and you're like, oh man, wow.
I watched it.
The Sean Ryan show?
I watched the Sean Ryan show. I'm very interested in the topic. I watched the whole thing front to end, start to finish. It's interesting. It's fascinating. And I have a committee on technology under the oversight committee. I'm very interested in all of this.
Is there classified information you can't talk to us about in terms of these UAPs,
Yes.
UFOs? Oh.
check out.
That proves it. It's aliens.
No, I didn't say that. But what I will say, and I can't say what shapes they are, but I was in a skiff or a classified room right before the holiday recess, Christmas recess, and the government has debunked a lot of videos and photos, even some of the stuff that's leaked out, and a lot of it does make a lot of sense. But there are consistently two shapes that are unknown and unidentified. The government, our government, cannot explain. I will not say what shapes those are, as I was told in a classified setting, and it's not public yet, but specifically there are two types of shapes that are consistently unknown, unexplained in our skies.
It could be plasma. They're doing this thing called talking plasma.
Not the shape of plasma.
But plasma can take different shapes. They can change the
So
shape
what
of it now,
Ian's
called
is
talking plasma. What they do is they triangulate laser beams or beams, and they connect them at one point, and then they can alter the shape, and they can project sound through the stuff too, so they can make it look like a man's face.
This is real.
Check out
Like
military
universities do it.
times.
Yeah, what they
Talking
do is
plasma.
if you take like 4 lasers, the point where they intersect will create
A shape.
And they
well, you're like, so when you point a laser, you see the dot on the wall. When the 2 lasers intersect, the point where they intersect refracts and you can see it.
Gotcha.
So what they do is they basically make holograms by having 10 lasers all move, on a computer program.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the reason why some people think UFOs are quote unquote talking plasma is that when they say that this object moves seemingly an instant, well, if they're just lasers going back and forth, it would
Gotcha. That's interesting.
If it's
and they would look like Tic Tacs.
if they're just radars coming up on radar, and they're like, "What is that?" Talking plasma. If you see the craft, that's another story, because they probably have lightweight drones that are going underwater and up into space and like.
Yeah, it could be interesting. So, but Aero, the government is going to start putting out some of the information on which ones are that they have debunked and how they debunked them, because I think that information would give more trust in the process too with the government, because I don't trust them. I don't trust at this point any government agency, because we've been lied to for so long by all of them. But then while they do that, they're also going to release information on what is unexplained.
What's the company?
ERO, it's a government agency that investigates UAPs. They investigate a lot of other things as well, but they'll be doing this, I am told, starting this year, starting over the next couple of months, start releasing information on videos and photos that they have debunked, and they will explain how they've been debunked. I've been briefed on this. And then some of the ones that are unexplained, they will also release to the public. So I think that's a great first step in some transparency.
Have you ever met any of the Aero agents, would you call them? Mm-hmm. Do they wear black suits? And
No.
did they ever come up to you with a silver-looking pen?
No.
Do they?
They're not men in black.
No.
No, they're not.
Not
men
that you
in
would know,
black.
but do they lie? Like, are they instructed by deep
My
state?
problem is when I go into a skiff, most of the information we get is already open source. It's already out there already. Very little is classified. And then the other problem is because of the overclassification of information, if you don't know the name of the specific program that's classified, if you don't know the words like the Constellation program, that one a couple weeks ago that came forward by Michael Schellenberger, like that one, if you don't have the specific name, they'll just say it doesn't exist. So it's like if you don't know what the compartmentalized program is, you don't know the name of it, you'll never get information on it, because they'll just tell you it did never happen, it doesn't exist. And then the other part is I do believe that private contractors are involved some way in some of this. And so they skirt around government laws, institutions, the Constitution, statutes, maybe even the executive branch. And they do some of this, whether it's reverse engineering or the technology, whatever we're involved in or have knowledge of or are replicating in the private sector to get around our laws too. I do believe that that's a thing.
Do you think that the technology to use gravity propulsion systems exist?
I don't know. I have not been briefed on it, but I did read the memorandum, the manifesto of the Cybertruck bomber.
Yeah.
I did watch Sean Ryan's program, and
Is it true the FBI said that email was sent by this guy?
I have not verified that, but I am very interested in learning more through my chairmanship on the Technology Committee on Oversight. I would like to learn more about what's going on. I also don't want to be suicided. I am very happy. I love my children. I love my family. I love my job. But I am very interested in, because some of the names that were used in that memo they talked about are real people.
Yeah.
They're active duty officers within some of those agencies and departments that are referenced in there. That to me, that's a hard thing for me to get past. But the gravitational propulsion systems, I can't imagine that does exist. So that's why I would like us to look into it in Congress, even if we have to do it in a classified setting.
I suppose the challenge is, I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. I mean, humans can invent and develop things. And then the question is, if the U.S. were to invent a new kind of propulsion, they're not going to tell us if it's a weapon or it's, So I was thinking about this the other day. I was at an airport and I was reading about Amelia Earhart and I was like, wow, like look how much was accomplished in this short time when they invented these planes. And the fascinating thing is within a couple decades, we were at war with them. Like we just built them and then 2 decades later.
we learned how to fight with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking like, how is it that the Wright brothers in North Carolina, right? What was the name of the hill? I don't know. They
Kitty Hill? Kitty Hawk?
Kitty Hawk, right? I was actually just there like 2 years ago. These guys figure it out, and then that information as to how to create a heavier than air flying machine becomes ubiquitous around the world to the point where we're fighting against our enemies who have them.
And what payload they can carry,
Right.
and bombs. And,
So
yeah.
I feel like the U.S. says, look at us. We've discovered gravitic propulsion. The last thing we want is for China or Russia to figure, or Iran to figure out how to do this.
Correct.
Because we don't want to go to war against
Yeah,
them.
they got that material, aerogel. You guys familiar with aerogel?
Oh, yeah.
Super lightweight, almost lighter than air. I think it is lighter than air. And
I think they like freeze dry something, and then what's left
yeah,
is this.
it's very heat resistant. Like you can blowtorch it and it's totally fine. And they'll alloy it with like airloy they have where you can hit it with a hammer, but it's so light. And the atmosphere is dense. Like stuff can be lighter than this atmosphere and it'll float. Like obviously a vacuum itself will float. So if you have materials and then, I mean, you talk about like warp drive and like cavitating space and creating enough horizontal momentum that it reduces vertical momentum to 0 or near 0. So
I got a B in physics. Relativity almost killed me.
what about it?
I'm just, whatever that is you just said.
Horizontal momentum, making vertical momentum reduce. Yeah, I think there's an inverse relationship with the two forms of momentum. So Jeremy Riss, the alien scientist, we talk a lot about anti-gravity research, but
it's a national security issue. So if it exists, it is a national security issue. I sit on the House Armed Services Committee also, and I would like to make sure that if we have very advanced technology in our skies, I want to know for a fact that China does not have it, or if it does exist, who else has it? Because this is where the arms race will be.
Because if it's a corporation, then the corporation has it, and if the corporation wants to sell that tech,
correct. So so I do have concerns if it's in the private sector, who else has access to it?
do you? Because how do you navigate the ethics of military secrecy?
Well, there are laws that govern who companies can do business with overseas, like terrorist organizations. You can't.
ITAR stuff.
What's that?
ITAR stuff.
ITAR, correct. You just can't go do a deal with Hezbollah as an American company. It's just not a thing. So that's why classifying terrorist organizations is important. We don't classify the Taliban as terrorists.
But you could do a deal with somebody that does a deal with the Taliban.
I mean, the way that kind of stuff works, like for instance, like SpaceX is essentially like they make intercontinental ballistic missiles, even though they don't make warheads. So he has to have a clearance, and he has to follow all kinds of ITAR rules, and he has to
regulations
and stuff, and he has to have the people that actually work there. They have to follow clearance, and there's a whole slew of different products that are like that, whether it be certain types of lasers, infrared stuff, all kinds of different computer programs,
and then what you are
cryptology.
selling or have a contract to sell to another foreign country, there are export rules, export permitting that you have to go through the State Department. There are a lot of regulations on how you would do business with a foreign entity.
Do you ever get concerned that they're going to sell to a neutral entity that will then sell to an enemy?
I'm always concerned.
It's a way more of a realistic concern that the federal government will just give it to
terrorists. But more about cyber and hacking too. It's like, who do these companies employ? Who has access to the information? Who's the spy? Who's getting paid off enough that China already has the information? If we have advanced technology, or any of our technology, quite frankly, is, how are we ensuring that those systems aren't getting hacked, their enemies don't have the information? And I think that's more of a realistic scenario, because China is trying to hack us every single day, all night long, in every way, shape, or form they possibly can.
I think the challenge is, if they did bring it into the skiff and said aliens are real and they're aliens, you couldn't tell us anyway.
Right. That's not what they said.
Yeah.
But
but you can't.
Yeah. But I can't confirm if they did say that. I wouldn't be able to say that. But
that proves it.
No, that was definitely not said. But there are two shapes that are very interesting, which was fascinating to me. So I would.
They've shown you the shapes. You just can't describe them, or what?
They have shown us the shapes. There's just two certain shapes that they cannot explain.
Can you? I don't want to press too hard on classified stuff. But I'm just curious, why can't you describe the shape?
Because it was in a skiff, and I don't want to.
There you go.
Violate
Yeah, I figured because
I have run against people that have leaked classified information.
Yeah, we don't want that.
I just don't. I will not. I won't go there. I want to make sure I follow that rules.
But they were donuts.
I think they were triangles. But three-dimensional,
triangles, we know
undulating in and out
You know-
because it's plasma.
My favorite thing was when the drone stuff's happening in New Jersey. The New York Post ran a story about the drones, and they had 3 pictures, and one of them was very obviously an American Airlines plane with the American flag tail, and I was like,
Dude.
it's a picture of an airplane, dude.
Yeah.
A lot of people were freaking out.
But were we lied to per that memo? Is it China? Are they off our coast? Is it Russia? Is it Iran? Is it somebody else? These are questions the American people deserve answers to, which is why that memo is fascinating to me and why I believe we should get briefed on it, look at it, investigate it within armed services oversight, wherever that jurisdiction.
You're talking about these this last month, the drones, whatever came
All
of that.
down the eastern seaboard.
Yeah.
Nothing has come of it. We
Are
just
the
got,
drones still there? Yo, I've heard some crazy stories.
What have you heard?
So we had Ron Coleman on, and he lives in North Jersey, and he said his neighbors saw something the size of an SUV fly over their house.
Oh my gosh. Mhm.
Someone else super chatted us saying that they were driving down the road and some large car-sized drone landed and stopped for a second and then picked up and flew off again.
Really?
Like tons of people have reported. This is the crazy thing. People are reporting car-sized drones of some sort, flying objects that may be manned. And people don't understand exactly how they're flying. Maybe they're rotors or whatever. But then people conflate that and take pictures of airplanes and helicopters, and it confuses everything.
Yeah, and there was confusion because of that. And I saw some of the photos where it was planes and not drones. But I was initially concerned about like radiation. Are they looking for some kind of a lethal device that's out there that they can't find or that somebody lost? Because that does happen, by the way. But then when I read that memo, the manifesto, I said, well, gosh, maybe it's one of our foreign adversaries. And if that's happening, why aren't we shooting them down out of the skies? This is another China balloon scenario. But by the way, the FAA technically controls and mans the skies, and even our military assets aren't really allowed to shoot even a drone over a military base. They're not allowed to shoot it down because it's FAA territory.
We had a drone fly over our studio,
Really?
spying on us, low altitude, in our airspace.
Yeah.
And I was told
Can't do anything.
You can't do anything about it. And I'm like, well, how do you stop this clearly criminal action? Like, good luck.
Yeah.
So Trump's got this video. There's this video out with Trump. Check it out.
Kind of disappeared very suddenly. Do you have any idea whatever happened to the drones?
What happened to drones?
Well, you said that you knew you thought the government knew what was happening with these drones over New Jersey. There were some by Bedminster.
I don't know. They're over Bedminster a lot, so I can imagine. I'm going to give you a report on drones about one day into the administration, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones. And it's not only with me. Glenn was telling me today that in Virginia they have drones all over the place, too, and nobody's reporting it. I don't know why they're not. Do you want to say something about that?
Just one quick comment, which is we are home to the largest naval base in the world in Quantico, and we house a lot of the SEAL teams and have a huge national security infrastructure. And now for 2 years running, we have had drone incursion over secure airspace, and we still don't know why. And I think that's absolutely unacceptable. And I think President Trump and the new leadership coming in, I think, will work diligently to understand who's behind this and what we do in order to stop the digital surveillance of all of our secure infrastructure.
Interesting. So I guess we'll
be military.
find out in a week.
It's got to be military. And the thing is, this is the ethics. Like, you kind of, as the military, as the commander, the one building the weapons program to counter foreign weapons programs, you want to lie to the public so that they believe it, so that the Chinese start to believe it also.
The military doesn't actually do the building.
Yeah, I was being hyperbolic, and not the military.
Well,
commander.
China
it's half
is
true.
constantly spying on us. China knows everything. I think it's very difficult to keep secrets from someone as like
Nefarious,
China.
yeah.
There are contractors, of course, but the U.S. government does have military Air Force bases that do weapons research.
So
even still, they're bringing in people from the private sector.
Yeah, but it's a mix.
It's a collaboration.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like, what do you tell people? Like, if Trump found out, like, these are counter drones, these are weapons that we're going to use to defend ourselves, and here's how they can be shot down, and here's how they can be disrupted. You kind of don't want people to know that.
I was drafting a bill this fall, and I think we're still doing it, that would allow our military to shoot down drones over military airspace. That's not allowed right now. And so I was literally drafting a bill to fix that, and then this happened, the drone thing happened.
Weren't you talking about that? How shooting down anything is a felony?
We just mentioned it.
Yeah.
What? They can't. The military cannot shoot.
Correct.
Okay. Why?
It's a felony.
FAA
Who's the
controls the airspace.
Some other organization is trumping military authority when it comes to self-defense. That makes no sense.
Airspace. U.S. airspace.
Ian is right. The military should be supreme and have absolute authority.
I see, because we're a citizen-run
civilian oversight.
country.
I mean, that's why the secretary or the Secretary of Defense is almost always a civilian.
Thank you guys
supposed to be
for
a civilian.
pointing me back towards the light.
The president isn't actually in the military. He's the commander in chief, but he's a civilian. The SecDef is a civilian. The guy that runs CIA, civilian. These positions are staffed
So
by civilians.
if one of these drones opens fire, then the military can take it down.
I mean,
no, I don't know. I don't know if the military can operate on U.S. soil that way. I think it would be a law enforcement
I'm not sure.
issue.
I'd have to actually check. I'm not.
It's a law. It's. I mean, obviously, I think
Complicated.
if it's opening fire on the military base,
Then yes,
I'm
I would
pretty sure.
imagine.
But I assume if drones are flying around shooting people, it's going to be a local law enforcement thing. Let's jump to this story from the Post Millennial. Trump weighs 100 executive orders, many on border security for first day in office.
Good
100.
stuff.
What's the record?
The record on first day in office? I don't know, but this would probably be
might be it,
more
right?
than Biden's. Yeah, and Biden
I'm
had
pretty
a
sure.
ton
I feel like Biden had around 60 something.
on his first day in office.
his
Well, it
first
was the
day.
gender one. He had like that.
But it was
that
also
the one that really
reversing all
launched
of
it.
Donald Trump's
Yeah,
immigration
he had-
policy.
He had very many.
He stopped building the wall immediately.
I mean, every president since George W. Bush has had more executive orders than the previous one.
Correct.
Yep.
Which I find really disturbing. I mean, a lot of this stuff should be law or it shouldn't be happening. It's very bizarre that a president can come into office, make a whole slew of regulations without congressional oversight, without the people's oversight,
Well,
and then they can just be
it's
automatically
not.
reversed.
There's limitations to the authority of the executive branch. Executive orders tend to be things like, I am instructing my law enforcement agencies to no longer go after people who are doing this thing.
Right.
I am now instructing.
His was building a wall. I mean, he had his wall building was an executive order.
I think that still falls within the purview of the commander in chief.
Grok
Defensive
says
structures with military budgets.
Grok says that the largest number of executive orders signed on the first day by a president was Joe Biden, who signed 17 executive orders on his first day.
17?
That's what Grok says.
Let's
I thought
go,
it was
Trump.
I thought it was bit
Well, there were a
Again.
bunch in that first week. I mean, he
Okay.
just kept rolling him out day after
Yeah,
day.
it could be
I hope-
that,
I hope
could be
one of
that he
the-
got, I mean, he's an old guy. Could have been that he
Yeah,
got
he
tired
might have-
after
he
16,
might have-
and the
he
next
might not
day
have
he
been
did
able to
another
do that.
pile.
we all know he wasn't doing it.
No,
But
he wasn't doing
I
it.
hope one of his executive orders is the creation of a special investigation to the J6 committee.
I
He
think
doesn't
that would
need
be
an executive
worthwhile.
order for that.
Yeah.
I'm just, poking the bear a little bit.
well, if you were coaching witnesses, if you are destroying evidence, that's a crime.
Yeah.
And should be investigated. That goes back to my thing being a member of Congress. What are we actually doing here? And we know that we know so much more today than we knew 4 years ago even. But to hear that, it's very disturbing. And if they get away with it, it's wrong. It's illegal and should be investigated.
It does seem like there was definitely some collusion between Liz Cheney and Cassidy Hutchinson. It seemed kind of disturbing, that they were like a back channeling before she testified.
And not wanting to come forth with their information, their evidence, and their documentation, trying to keep that at bay. That's also wrong.
Well, and not hanging on to all of the documentation that they had during that committee.
Yep.
I mean, that's for real. Benny Johnson
what they
talked
do.
about that.
That's what they do. Everything they accuse Trump of doing or the right of doing, they themselves are the ones actually doing. They're projecting every single thing that
Would you
they
go
say.
so far as
It's a
special
clever
counsel?
deflection.
Yeah, I mean, special counsel would be fine, but we actually have to do something. Like,
I agree.
indictments have to be referred. Like, if you broke the law, you should be investigated.
100%.
You should go to jail. You should be tried for it. I'm tired of the days of we are better than everybody else. That if you are a highfalutin official in D.C., that you are above the law or a
Why
member
were
of
there
their
never
family.
any consequences for Merrick Garland
Right?
being in contempt of Congress and refusing to comply with a subpoena on the her testimony?
Well, because it's was a Democrat-controlled Senate. That's why. So what do we do now? Right?
But he was in contempt of House. I mean, he was in
correct.
And
that
nothing
gets
happened.
Right. Nothing happened because of the DOJ being
The DOJ was
by
like,
Biden.
oh, we're not going to prosecute our boss. It's like,
Correct.
okay, maybe someone else should prosecute your boss.
Right.
If you're too pussy to do it.
It feels like there are very few checks and balances in the government, even though that is the purpose of the three separate branches.
I was just watching, I saw a picture of Steve Bannon earlier, thinking about that guy and how he basically went to jail for that contempt because he wouldn't sell out wouldn't speak against the president on the stand. And it's like Merrick Garland. I don't know if it's the exact same.
Garland should go to prison.
I felt so bad for what Steve had to endure for 40 days or more. It was just so gruesome to put a human through that.
It'll make a great book one day. It'll be fascinating reading.
And I guess, should he have gone to prison?
No.
Then should Merrick Garland go to prison?
Yes.
What's the difference?
He did go to prison.
I mean, why? What's the difference?
Should Steve Bannon have gone to prison? No.
What's the
Should
difference
Merrick Garland go to prison? Yes. And the reason why is that Steve Bannon went to prison.
And Peter Navarro both went to prison.
Them differently.
So it was a total misapplication of the law in the first case, and then it was applied especially for Merrick Garland, who didn't have to suffer from any of the consequences of refusing to comply with a congressional subpoena to turn over documentation about the president's, mental capacity due to his aging. We still haven't seen the full transcript of the, Robert Hur testimony because they redacted parts of it. And it turns out that the biographer of Biden, who was part of that case, has a lot of documentation as well. And we don't get to see that.
Well, I would say I want to protect the power of the subpoena. Like, if Congress has that power and authority, we have to protect it. My issue is the way that it's applied. One or two people, in this case, the Republicans go to jail, Democrats don't. Whatever the standard is, it has to be applied to everybody equally. And if you get a congressional subpoena, unless you're protected by the executive powers, you have to show up. You have to testify. And that was the issue with Hunter Biden when he showed up to the Oversight Committee. That guy was subpoenaed. Nothing happened. He showed up with a TV crew, Netflix crew, whoever it was, whatever streaming service it was. I screamed at him and said he had no balls because he showed up there and defied a congressional subpoena. And then he didn't go to jail.
Well, and also he specifically held his press conference on the Senate side.
The same day.
The same day,
Right
so that he
before.
couldn't be taken into custody by the House Sergeant of Arms.
Yeah.
I just want to make a correction. I was wrong about the number of executive orders. They haven't been increasing. In fact, George W. Bush had more than Obama. Trump had less than Obama, and Biden has so far had 143. But I will say that Franklin Delano Roosevelt had 3,721 executive orders.
Wow. Really?
Well,
I did not have that data point.
Yeah, FDR was garbage. But anyways.
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson had, it looks like, the second most with 1,800. But
that's the worst president in American history.
In the 21st century, it's all been under 300. But Bill Clinton had 364.
Interesting. I didn't. So we're actually on the low side.
So
we're on the low side. Yeah.
Joe Biden, 17.
The mainstream media.
I don't mean on day one. I mean total.
Yeah,
right.
Total.
So for day one, Joe Biden did 17, which was, I believe it was a record. Trump had 1. Mm-hmm. Obama did not sign any executive orders on day one of his first term. On his second day, he did sign some. George W. Bush didn't have any executive orders, and Bill Clinton had an executive order 1.
You're talking about on day
one. Day one. If Trump comes in with 100 executive orders, his wrist is going to be tired.
Baller.
You know what? I want to see it. Like, get it done, Trump. You have a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
It's time to just do the stuff. He had a lot of campaign promises, and the American people, we all out here, we expect him to deliver.
Particularly,
and some of them are going to be ugly, but it's time to get it done.
Particularly if they're regarding the border and immigration and stuff like that, because
you got to start.
You got like
started.
70% of the population feels like deportations are what they want. Not just like, are they kind of okay? Are they a little squishy on it?
Bye-bye.
They're
That's
straight
what the
up
American
saying
people
70% of the American people say we're okay with and we desire deportations. Now, whether or not you think they should deport people that are just here illegally and that's the only law they've broken, I don't care. I want to see them to start with the criminals like they've said and then go on down the list. If you're here illegally, you should not be allowed to stay. The only caveat I would have is the people that are dreamers. Maybe they can stay if there's some kind of benefit. But if they're just going to school and on the government dole and stuff like that,
visas for
they
going
can
to
go
school.
too.
We have visas for coming here to work.
Yeah.
And get in line with everybody else.
I don't have any problem with deporting people, and I think the American the American people have made it completely clear they want that just as much as they want ID to vote, which is another thing that even though
Gavin Newsom got rid of the voter ID in California, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Well, he made it illegal to require it.
Yeah, and as I understand that the states run their elections, but I don't think that there's a problem with the federal government saying that you must do your elections in one day, and there's a deadline at night. I don't think there's any kind of constitutional
Federally,
preventing.
we can only weigh in, I believe, on federal elections, but states run their election policy. That is, checks and balances within the government, states' rights, et cetera, federalism, that the balance that we have there to have some of those checks and balances. But my bill, H.R. 30, the Violence Against Women, Preventing Violence Against Women by Illegal Aliens Act, will get a vote next week. Elon Musk has endorsed that bill. My plan is, and my idea would be, deport the worst of the worst. And deportation is not a 4-letter word anymore. They have to go. The American people want them out. Get back in line to come here and work or come and go to school. Get in line with everybody else and, fix the visa system that we have. But, a lot of these companies, they're incentivized, and this is getting into the details, but they're incentivized to hire foreign workers. We have to stop incentivizing that and incentivize them to hire American workers, like the Social Security, FICA, what they're using there. They're incentivized to hire people that are not American.
Yeah. Are you aware of, this is a bit off topic, but are you aware of Health and Human Services refugee resettlement program?
I'm aware of FEMA's program to house illegal aliens, but that resettlement program, yes.
So if I was reading on HHS website, they have a program called the Refugee Resettlement Program, and that's what they've been using to take people that come to the border and say that they're claiming asylum. They're saying all they do is they have to say, I'm claiming asylum, and then they'll go ahead and put them into that program as opposed to being like, oh, you have to leave or whatever. And they start, and that was part of how they filter them out through the country. And so I've made a bunch of noise about this on the show in the past. I think that was one of the means that they've been using to try and turn purple states bluer and so
100%. And swing states, swing districts, 100%. But also, and the White House denied this last year, but there was a program voted on by Democrats and a handful of Republicans twice in the last 2 or 3 years that fed FEMA $1.45 billion to house illegal immigrants in this country. FEMA's mission is to protect against natural disasters and to respond to natural disasters. It is not to house illegals. Turned out that was true. I had a bill for that. Couldn't get a vote, by the way, in the House last year on that bill. But we were funding through FEMA housing illegal aliens.
It's called the HHS Office of Refugee Resettlement.
Yep. Yeah,
that's why Remain in Mexico is so important, and Trump promised to bring that back.
Yeah. Let's jump to this story from the Post-Millennial. The Supreme Court has declined Trump's request to halt sentencing in the New York case. And is it my understanding that it was Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett?
Yeah, they joined the liberals and voted to say that Trump has to. Oh, if you refresh, there's a lot more story now.
A lot more story if I refresh.
A lot more story if you refresh. But they voted with the liberals to say that Trump has to face sentencing in Judge Juan Merchan's court tomorrow.
So Clarence Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh indicated they would have approved Trump's emergency request. But Roberts and Coney Barrett joined the liberals to have Trump be sentenced.
I think that's absolutely insane. And I think it's obvious, too, that the judge and Alvin Bragg really wants his scalp, So the whole point of this is he can't be a convicted felon until they finish the trial. To finish the trial, you have to go through sentencing. And now when Trump enters office, he'll be the first president to ever.
That is 100% spot on. They're doing this a week before he gets sworn in as president, or 10 days, technically, I suppose. That is the end game. They want to call him a convicted felon.
They really want that.
That is the only reason they're doing this.
And that's why they're saying he's not going to get any penalties.
Right. And he's not going to get any penalties. It would be absurd. I mean, what kind of penalties could there be? You'd have to set up a White House at Rikers Island or something. Like, that would kind of be badass. But, that's not really the jam.
He'd be like
His
a
ankle
mob
bracelet
boss.
would be gold. It would be the most badass ankle bracelet.
I mean, his security would be arguably a lot better.
At Rikers, I think
the food would be better.
A lot less bad things would happen to the incarcerated people there.
Running the country from in prison like some kind of ultimate mob leader.
Yeah,
that would be
mob
the
leader.
ultimate.
In here with me, or wait, no, it's the other way around.
I'm not locked up in here with you. You're locked up in here with me.
That's
and I hope they
Epic
raise
line.
a ton of money when this happens, when this goes down. This is what they are doing. They're trying to destroy our country by destroying him.
So they charge this guy. They want to sentence him, and then what? To nothing?
They just want to call him a convicted felon. That is all this is about.
It's all narrative.
It's all narrative.
But is there a
all
chance
message.
that he goes and they're like, yeah, you're guilty. You're sentenced to 60 days in jail.
Yeah.
No, the judge has already said he won't do jail.
But the chance doesn't mean it's going to happen.
But
Right, it's-
technically, it could still happen like that. And then Trump's like put in handcuffs and walked out.
The judge said no. They're going to do it virtually.
Oh,
But
okay.
I mean,
I guess that's reasonable.
there's a you're not asking to turn oxygen into gold, okay? Like, can a judge sentence Trump to prison? Yes, he's got 34 felony counts. And I'll tell you, it's very strange, in fact, for a judge to be like, 34 felony counts, I hereby sentence you to nothing. Bang the gavel. But because the average person doesn't know and doesn't care, they're going to turn on CNN and Ezra Cooper is going to say, a convicted felon.
Yep.
That's it.
They're
That's all they want to do.
Convicted felon, President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump, a
the next 4
convicted
years.
felon.
Well, I hereby convict Juan Merchan for the felony of violating free Damastani law. And I never said it was official U.S. jurisdiction or sanctioned courts. But you can now call Juan Merchan a convicted felon because I hereby have judged it that he is a felon in the land of free Damastan.
We could even get a jury of our peers.
We're here, all in favor of
Top
him being
you know?
guilty of lawfare.
Oh, totally guilty of lawfare.
That's it. That's a majority.
Although I would say that Alvin Bragg was a
Both of them.
big accomplice.
If
you know, he
look,
was,
the point is, if they
Juan
want
Merchan
to,
was an accessory.
if they want to have a sham trial on fake charges and then call Trump a convicted felon, I can do the same thing.
So what?
If there's no qualifications for what makes someone a convicted felon, then Alvin Bragg's a convicted felon.
This is the
They
I
have
think,
turned
too,
the
they
court
still-
system into a joke, the judicial
Yeah.
system into a joke. You're going to have a
Merrick
drone over
Garland
your
helped.
property at your studio any minute now.
This is like the documents case. This is where they gave him 34 charges for like one email. Got sent to 34 people.
No,
or
this is
something.
a different thing.
This is Stormy Daniels.
Oh my God.
This is, and the 34 counts are: he received an invoice, they filed the invoice, he signed a check, he received the receipt for the signed check. It's like so little tiny things.
I hope
No
Trump
evidence.
locks them all up.
And
That's what I'm
meanwhile,
wondering.
no one ever said what the felony was that that
these
Trump
things.
was said to have committed. Because every time Alvin Bragg has prosecuted this charge, falsification of business records, it has been a misdemeanor. And the only way that he could make these misdemeanors felonies is by saying that these misdemeanors were committed in service to a felony crime. But he never said what that felony crime was. And in fact,
he can't
when
even prosecute a felony.
No,
By law, he can't.
and when Judge Juan Merchan gave instructions to the jury, he told the jury that the jury did not have to agree on what the felony crime was.
Just that they all agree that Trump did some crime somewhere.
They agree Trump's a
Right.
felon. That's all it is a PR.
So it was a completely bogus trial. And the jury came back multiple times with questions. It was clear that they were sort of confused about these charges. It was also clear that they did not agree on what felony was perhaps committed. And also, Alvin Bragg was trying to indicate that the crime had something to do with election interference. But that's a federal crime, not a state crime, and this was a state prosecution. So in every conceivable way, if Bragg was going to prosecute these charges, it should have been 34 counts, misdemeanor counts, and that's it.
Correct.
That's it.
No, it was beyond the statute of limitations. He couldn't.
Yeah, there was that too.
It's so incredible.
It's the only reason they were able to extend the statute of limitations is because he said it was felonies.
Yep.
It's such a fabrication, and yet,
Entirely.
like we said earlier, this is all about being able to say convicted felon.
That's
the
all.
only reason they want to do it.
reason.
And it is
More
it is-
leftist language games.
It's absolutely leftist language games, and it is the stuff of banana republics. And I am kind of shocked that there are people on the left in government that actually want to behave like this. It's normal for activists. It's not a surprise that, in a country of 350 million people, there'd be, or 330 million people, there'd be some crazies that are like, let's do anything so that way we can just say this, blah, blah, blah. That isn't a surprise. But the fact that there are people that are supposed to be serious people in government that are the quality and caliber of our elected officials and our judges and the judiciary in this country, that it has fallen so low, so absolutely just incredibly low, that these people are not only taken seriously, but they're allowed to be in positions of authority. It is terrible for the country.
Then they go write books, they do movies, they fundraise for their next election cycle, their next election campaign off of this. This is just a PR junket for them. It's not serious. They're not serious
Short-term
people.
gains, long-term losses.
Correct.
And too much fluoride in their water.
That too.
That was for Phil.
You got a point.
Hey man, people are getting dumbed down by crazy chemicals in the water and the food
Out of
supply
left field,
too, and then they get
right into your face.
Why there's so many trans in California because of the chemicals. I don't.
What if, let's get conspiratorial. I feel like maybe the reason there are people who don't believe in God is because they have no connection to it. And the conspiracy theory is that fluoride calcifies your pineal gland or whatever. I don't know if that's true, but that's what people say. But I wonder if...
What people say.
There is a prominent community of people on the internet,
Really?
DMT, like hippy-dippy ayahuasca people, that for a long time have said fluoride calcifies your pineal gland, which I don't know why fluoride would calcify. Sounds nonsensical to me. But
This
the point
says
is,
here it does not directly cause calcification. The pineal gland accumulates hydroxyapatite crystals, which are in your bone. It's a type of crystal in your bone.
from fluoride?
It just accumulates in your pineal gland, and then the fluoride has a high affinity for calcium, which is a component of the crystals.
So it tracks it?
So it brings the calcium out of those crystals in the.
Well, so
pineal gland.
my point is, what if water fluoridation, which is only dominant over the last 100 years, is the reason why we've seen a reduction in belief in God?
Can you reverse it? Can you reverse?
I don't know.
The calcification.
I think you can. Yeah,
pineal
let's
gland.
find out.
Just wild conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
How does that
Because everybody believed in God, and now we have like growing atheism in the Western world.
For me, it was
When
trying
did
to.
the fluoride start?
I think it was like 1912 or something. I could be wrong. I'll check.
You said 100 years-ish.
out.
It cannot be reversed by detoxing methods such as fasting. According to this, is just AI, brave AI. However, some supplements
1945 in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
right after
Really?
what month?
So right,
January.
you know what? That kind of goes along with what you were saying because it was the boomers who abandoned God, and that's when the boomers all started drinking water.
You know, for me, it was like I had to figure out what God was, because when they were telling me, hey, Santa Claus is real and so is God, and then I found out Santa Claus was fake, I was like, well, maybe God's fake too. It's just all a big lie. I can't see it. So don't. But then when I started to see like the cosmic microwave background radiation through these radio telescopes, and you see this undulating web of like radiation left over after the Big Bang, it looks like a neural net. Like, all right, okay.
You know what I found really sort of convincing for me was how energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Only changed.
Right. So when you die, what happens to your energy? You must go somewhere. Where do you go?
Into the sun.
Maybe you go back to your creator,
Or off into deep
and
space.
end up being created into more things. And
You wake up in a crane game with the claw picking
you
you
know
up
what
and death.
Think about it. People
What I thought was that
Elon,
means
you're on Mars.
What I thought was that means the energy that is in every human being exists in an afterlife.
For sure. They say you're headed towards a bright light, which is probably the sun. And they say hell is the absence of God, which is people that refuse the light. They refuse to go towards the sun. They don't want to be amalgamated back into the spirit realm of this glorious ball of energy. So they go flying off into deep space where it's cold and dark, and that's hell in the Bible. I mean, it just tracks.
And then they're chewed in the mouth of the devil for eternity.
Perhaps.
That's
Or
the
they're
Dante
brought back to the
version.
light.
I know.
Yeah, I
It's
love
great.
that.
To guide
so
them.
good.
That's why it's funny when
beautiful.
when Trudeau said there isn't a snowball's chance in hell. I'm like, I love that, because if you go by the Dante's Inferno thing, that snowball's
Yeah.
doing pretty well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Also, he said there isn't a snowball's chance in hell. Doesn't he mean there is a snowball's chance in hell?
Yes. That would
People
be-
always do like, I couldn't, what do they say? I couldn't care less, or I could care less.
Right.
Which is the wrong
Which
one?
means
The
that,
entendre.
yeah.
You have a wide range of perhaps you care, I guess. It's I cannot care any
I care
less.
so much that I could care less.
There is a snowball's chance in hell, because the implication is a snowball would melt. If there isn't, I guess you're saying it's a wide range of possibilities. I don't know.
Or hell is deep space.
And it's
Sure.
cold.
Freezing, yeah.
It's freezing.
A snowball would evaporate, I guess.
Would it evaporate?
A snowball in space?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It depends on how cold it is.
It's really,
it
really
would
cold.
absolutely evaporate.
It depends if it's actually if it's got indirect sunlight or not, because like if you're in space without any air around you, if you're in direct sunlight, you're getting that direct radiation and heat and stuff. So it probably would melt.
I'm not an astronaut.
It says a snowball would not.
I'm in a room full of astronauts. I feel like right
Hey,
now.
we're on a spaceship at the moment. Now that you mentioned that, Nancy.
It would sublimate
Which means it goes from solid to gas.
without becoming liquid
Interesting.
because of the vacuum. So evaporate was the
Evaporate would have been liquid to
Wrong word.
gas. Yeah, sublimate. That's hardcore.
Sublimate.
I was just thinking about snow yesterday.
How am I going to use sublimate in an X post? That's going to be my mission this weekend.
Emotions can sublimate.
It's a new word.
Yeah, that
Trump must sublimate
our national debt.
Yes.
Or drones.
Oh, we
know.
could if we could sublimate
We
drones.
sublimate drones.
We
need
could, if you hit it
to-
with high enough heat.
And which is more
Deport
important, drones or the
deport.
debt? Debt.
I think the drones are the immediate problem, but
I
then
don't
the
know.
debt is probably.
Who knows what the drones are, but we should investigate. All right, everybody, we're going to go to Super Chat. So smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Become a member by going to timcast.com and click join us. And, the dog's yelling.
Yeah.
What did you find?
She's happy to hear your voice.
Oh, okay.
Excited for
People,
Super
people,
Chats.
do you want to show your dog off?
Yeah, we're Libby. Come here, baby.
She's right over here.
The dog's name is Libby.
The
You got
dog's
Libby?
name is also Libby, you guys.
The dog's name is Liberty.
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 So the whole time we're doing the show, this little dog's been running around, just exploring and sniffing and doing dog stuff.
Her name's Liberty. She loves freedom, the Constitution, and bacon.
Dang. Nice hairdo.
I also like those things.
Smart dog. Very
In
smart.
what order? Was that the order that?
I'm a dog person generally, but I like that dog extra.
Yeah,
It's a cute
7
dog.
pounds of freedom right here. Just
adorable.
you know.
She was
Cannot
just
be
running around
tamed.
the whole show. It was pretty funny.
She was sitting near you, watching you the whole time.
Oh, really?
Right behind
Oh, look
you.
at that.
Do you bathe
yeah.
her frequently?
Yeah, about once a month.
What kind of chemicals do you use? Like temperature of the water?
It's like oatmeal shampoo. You know, the best stuff for her coat. She's got long hair. It's hard to detangle.
It's nice. Her hair looks very
Yes.
good. Do you use like warm water? Or hot
Lukewarm
or
water.
Warm.
Have you ever brought her onto the floor?
What's that?
Have you ever brought her onto the floor?
Oh yeah, and I've been asked to take her off the floor, and I keep her there.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I'm like, you guys can arrest me and my dog. But she got sworn in with me last session. I had her in. We got
wow.
sworn in at like 2 a.m. and I had the dog. I had her in one hand, and my other hand was up getting sworn in the middle of the night. She's been on the. She's seen some floor action.
Why
That
middle?
dog's seen some stuff, man. Now here live on Timcast IRL on the floor of
Her
Congress.
premiere on
Yeah,
Timcast.
Libby looking good.
All right, let's go to Super Chats. Become a member over at timcast.com because, we use Rumble infrastructure. That means when you're watching our members-only show, it's Rumble's video player. And when you send it to become a member, you're using Rumble and Dan Bongino's payment processor. So that means the fees that we pay out you're helping all of us at the same time to build this parallel economy, to become more resilient against censorship. And you get to watch the uncensored members-only show, which is awesome. And as a member, you can actually call in and talk to us and our guest. How fun is that? All right. BTK says, ask Ian if the fire can be stopped with graphene.
I think it does retard flame as far as I know.
Carbon, though. It'll burn.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, I think you need really high heat to burn graphene. Let me check. I was thinking about
right.
like if we could dust like a fire zone with graphene or with some chemical that wouldn't kill the plants. Like you were saying earlier, use some sort of flame retardant, but like without harming the foliage that would put out the fires and maybe even prevent forest fires.
I think carbon will burn.
Yes, that's what burns.
It depends on the
Heats
the
up
shape
and then
of it. for
bonds with
sure.
oxygen.
Graphene's not flammable in its pure form, but it has fire extinguishing properties.
Interesting. All right. Waffle Sensei says, waffles are the superior breakfast food, and it's about time that Waffle House joined the political fray. It's a pleasure to have you, Nancy.
I'm sorry. Yes, but it does not have fire extinguishing properties. I read that wrong. Sorry to interrupt your compliment.
I'm
Nancy.
a former Waffle House waitress, so
Really?
thanks for the shout. Yeah, I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of school at 17
Oh, cool.
and took a job at a Waffle House on the side of the road.
I like Waffle House because
Love
you
it.
can watch them actually crack the eggs open right in front of you.
Yes.
Real food.
Yeah,
And real
food.
people serving
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
You sit down and you're like, eggs, and they go crack, egg, and they put it on your plate. And I'm like, some of these places you go to and they got the weird carton of eggs they pour on the thing, and they're supposed to be nicer.
Do you have any photos of you working at Waffle House? Because Kamala Harris couldn't produce photos of her working at
I have my
McDonald's.
apron still.
Really?
And the shirt. I found them in storage a couple years ago and I took a picture.
They're going to claim you bought it at a thrift store, and they're like,
Post that
she
on
did not
X.
work there.
It still had grease on it. I had the bonnet and all that.
the
This is
DNA.
the mid
She posted a
90s,
picture
a
of
long
it on
time
X.
ago. I'll bring it back up. I don't know if I'm sure I have somewhere. Lots of stories about Waffle
Did you
House.
work with Ron Paul?
I did in 2012.
That's
I
awesome.
worked on his campaign.
Oh, you did? That's awesome.
Yeah, I was. There she goes again. She said Ron Paul, and she's lit up with Liberty.
She's hooting, yeah.
I met him in 2012 when he was running for president, and just been so impressed ever since. Everything again, like Trump, everything he said has come true in his predictions, both on foreign policy and financial policy, economic policy. We've ignored for a very long time, and we have no time to waste. I know she's going.
That's the thing about
Somebody
like
at the door or something?
You said.
short-term harm. Like Ron is kind of like, he's the guy that would have instituted the short-term harm to prevent the long-term pain.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's you know what I notice about Republicans and Democrats is that the Republicans are basically like the dad who's saying, clean your room, work hard, life's a bitch, and then you die, but you got to do what you got to do. And the Democrats are like the wine ant being like, just do whatever you want. Who cares?
But the problem is the Democrats have been aided and abetted by Republicans for decades now. And so when we did the debt ceiling when McCarthy was Speaker, it was a horrible deal. But we've spent just as much as drunken Democrats in the government. And this is partially the Republican Party. I've voted against all of it. But they are sometimes just as bad as the left on spending.
When did you first get sworn in?
The 2021. So it was November 20 election. I got elected.
We've been seeing good people coming in, or I should say better people coming in for a while now. And I think, when I was younger, it looked like one big hodgepodge mess of corrupt elitist, garbage.
Yeah.
Now you're getting unique voices. I think it's the internet. Decentralizing the ability to fundraise and to build support. You're no longer required to march behind the GCCC or the NRCC.
Sometimes it doesn't even matter how much money they have against you. If you have the truth with you and the truth behind you, you will win. Yeah. I mean, they just spent over $7 million on me on my race in June of last year. I won by the largest margin I ever had. I spent like 3 or 4 to 1, and I won despite all that money because I had the truth. And I told the truth and nothing but the truth. And that's what won people over right now. They want authenticity. They want that authenticity because of Trump. He brought a realness and authenticity to the political conversation that hadn't been here before in decades. It's a breath of fresh air. That's what they want you to be, even if they disagree with you. They just want to know you're not lying to them. You're going to tell them the truth.
I love how Trump was asked about a preemptive strike on Iran. And I'm just imagining how Obama or some other president would have answered. These are difficult questions. And when it comes to these negotiations, we're going to have to look long at blah, blah, blah. Trump goes, what a stupid question. I can't answer that. Why would you even ask it? And I'm like, thank you. Just say it. Just stupid question.
Just be real. And that's what he's done, and which is why, he's going to he's turned things in a way that is going to be so much better for our country. But we can't allow powerful forces in Washington to stop him.
I love when he got asked about the how would you bring water to the Southern California? And he goes, what a great question. I love this question. I want to answer this one because I got a story for you. And then when he gets asked about military strategy, he's like, that's so stupid. It's like, I couldn't possibly answer that. Explain what I'm going to do with the military before I'm president? What a dumb question. I'm just like, this is amazing.
Standing ovation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Von Louis says, this was a wildfire. Imagine if this was an earthquake. Like that movie with The Rock, right? What was that? What was that movie? San Andreas?
Oh, yeah, San Andreas. I'm not sure if that had The Rock in it. There was a movie, San Andreas, but there was also a movie with The Rock about massive firestorms, and I forget what that was called. But I will Google it.
Tyrant says, I'm glad I moved out of California a long time ago. Also, Phil sporting that awesome Megadeth shirt. Rock on, brother.
Absolutely.
I still think it's worth repeating. It's crazy that the last rock song to reach #1 on the Billboard charts was How You Remind Me by Nickelback.
I love that song.
Really?
2001 was the last time a rock song hit #1.
You guys think the Beatles are rock and roll?
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of it.
Bob Dylan said they weren't. I was just wondering.
Well,
I mean, some songs are and some songs aren't.
Bob Dylan's an ornery bastard at this point.
Like, how do you define your music, Bob? He's like, I don't know. I never heard anybody like me before.
Yeah, of course he's going to say that. Yeah.
A long time ago, maybe he thinks they're rock now.
Did he say it more like this?
I don't know, man. He was like 24 at the time.
No, it was called San Andreas. Yeah.
Yeah, with
The movie.
The Rock was in it?
Yep.
I was told the Beatles were rock and roll my whole life, but it just
I think
it's so
they're rock
light.
and roll.
Well, some of it's light
Gentle.
and some of it's not.
Yeah.
All right, Christopher Murphy says, California had decades to figure this out. Why didn't they do it? Clean your effing forests. Also, we cover California about their ish. Where was the attention in Florida? I lost my home 2 years ago in Ian. Well, I mean, the problem I see is that Ian can control the weather, but he won't stop these disasters.
I was exhausted last night, dude. So you have your body has a magnetic field it's generating, and the Earth has a magnetic field. And
Ian's
interwoven.
neurodivergent.
And so you can maneuver clouds with your willpower or whatever it is, but you will literally see them dissipate or coagulate depending on the type of energy you put into it.
Phil's shaking his head.
I've brought storms together. I've caught
I love
clouds.
Phil's
has not.
head reactions.
Anything.
Yeah, Phil's like, prove it. Show me the numbers, mathematics, and give me a tool to measure it.
Ian also stares at the sun.
Many times I've moved the clouds around, and I've had people watch me do it. Luke Rudkowski will vouch.
Never
moved
moved.
But anyway, it's exhausting, and I only really can tell if I'm right underneath the clouds because I can't verify it's
Did we
working.
imbibe anything before we move the clouds?
For like 20 years, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Getting ready for this
the
moment.
truth comes out.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, you feel the energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. What have we here? Not Him says the development companies invested in by the rich are salivating over the fires, just like the Hawaii fires, getting ready to pay pennies now, buying up land and property. I don't see how the Palisades becomes worth anything. I mean, this was a wealthy area, largely. Now what? There's nothing there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess like people would be able to rebuild. I think that people are rebuilding in Lahaina, right? But that's being hindered.
If insurance will pay it out, but
Yeah.
that'll have to be subsidized by other states and other people in other states. That's what has
Yeah,
happened in the
exactly.
Southeast.
And there was something too. I mean, what's going to happen if big developers want to come in and buy up all this land? Isn't that just going to displace people permanently?
And that's the concern right now.
Yeah, like BlackRock and whoever else.
Yep.
This is
Wasn't there
the
something
land's still
recently
valuable.
in
It's still great.
Congress about Lahaina? There was like something
not
that
sure.
went through to make it some kind of like protected historical area, but that you could build in.
I'm not sure.
I wonder if something
I'd have
like
to go
that
look
would be
at it. I'd have
possible.
to look that up.
Everyone's familiar with the old saying, location, location, location. Like you can't get more California coastline. So if you have a lot there, even though you've lost your home and lost a lot of the value, the lot itself has still
You're
got
still
a
gonna
good
own
amount
that,
of value,
yeah.
you know, and you still own it. There, you know, the insurance, the fact that you don't have insurance now because California ran the insurance companies out of California is a problem. But I mean, you know, I do imagine that there are some people that would sell to like BlackRock or whoever. But
It would suck to be paying a mortgage on a house that got burned down, like paying your car payment after your car's been totaled. This would be worse.
Yeah.
Because those homes are like millions and millions of dollars.
It's a very small piece of land as well.
Yeah, very
I
small.
mean, and those houses are sometimes on top of each other because the land is so valuable.
And they're right next to each other, which
Correct.
is, of course, what
Right on top of each other.
contributes to the spread of the fires.
if I had,
This is interesting. Andy Morano says eucalyptus trees, Tim. Cali imported them around 1868. Their sap is highly flammable. They're invasive, and Cali does not doctor their forests. Part of Texas has the same climate as Cali without the fires.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I was talking to this friend of mine in California who's done all this research, and she was saying, you know, that the houses being really close together, the amount of vegetation, you know, people just grow bamboo in their yards. This is a very bad thing. This doesn't do anything to help. Combined with the poor management of the forest and the water, you know, it was like perfect conditions for a total conflagration.
Wow.
good word.
Daniel Holtum says they want to collapse the global financial system. Then they get right to the rescue with CBDCs.
Who's they? Who are you talking about? You're probably talking about the big banking industry coming out of
Powerful
Switzerland,
interests, corporations.
like the BlackRock ESG movement,
Yeah.
the World Economic Forum and stuff. Yeah, they want to own the world through money, economic victory.
Thomas Ruff says, as a result, what does it say? Resultant of Goose Creek, would Rep Mace please primary Lindsey Graham in 2026? Please, pretty please.
So that's my hometown. I'm from a little town called Goose Creek, South Carolina, and right next to that was Ladson, and I worked at the First Waffle House, exit 203 in Ladson, right where nearby where that gentleman lives in South Carolina.
Are you going to primary Lindsey Graham?
No, I am not, but I am thinking about running statewide at some point in
Oh.
the future. We are thinking about it right now.
Have you talked publicly more about that?
Nope, first time I've ever said it.
Oh,
hello.
Can you elaborate on this.
Not right now, because I'm just
Statewide, huh?
ruminating about it. We're
Ruminating.
thinking about it, and you got, you know, until you're a candidate, till you raise or spend so much money, you're not a candidate yet. But we are definitely looking at it statewide.
I mean, if you decide not to run statewide, you should definitely think about primary or running for Lindsey Graham's seat.
Right.
I love serving in the House too. Like I'm on oversight. I'm on House Armed Services. We've been what I've done in a short period of time is incredible. Like everything we did last week, and you know, being on the phone with the Trump and the Speaker and the last two holdouts last week, getting this bill through next week. I mean, it's been an incredible time as well.
Can you elaborate on what statewide means, or are you going to leave it there?
I'm gonna let you hang.
All right.
The
All right.
enigma.
All right. Well, maybe people will start writing up wild rumors, and just making, you know what I mean? The corporate press is going to write whatever they want. All right, let's go. We got Greg Beaudry. I'm from NorCal. I'm 30, a GC, married with 3 kids. My mortgage is $5,300 a month for a 4-bedroom, and they tell us our values comes from sending water to SoCal, but they really send it into the ocean. Yep.
That's
Chafed
tough.
says, diversity didn't make America great. America attracted the best and brightest, which made us diverse. The left lies as usual.
Oh, I love that.
That's a great quote.
That's true.
And we attracted innovation.
Liberty made us great.
Liberty, that's right. We have a lot of liberty in this room, right, Libby?
Lots of libs.
Lots of libs. Yeah, but we attracted innovation. We've got to continue that. But our bureaucracy, government bureaucracy, has made us so big and so slow. We've slowed down, and that's why China's at our heels.
Elliot Cruz says, can we start an Adam Carolla was right jar?
I mean, he's pretty good.
Well, I mean, is the implication that you just fill up the jar really quickly?
Maybe. What do you want to do with the money in the jar?
You buy beer at the end of the week?
I mean, we don't drink beer.
I'm saying they do.
Oh, them. Okay.
They want to start it.
You could start it if you want.
You want to drink coffee, low acidity coffee.
Not this late, but yes.
Oh, I just had a bunch of coffee. I'm sorry about the tangent, guys. Let's go.
I mean, the crazy thing is that we can
still
see
just on
Ian's
TV.
coffee sales in
See it
real
right
time,
here.
you know?
Yeah.
Are they triplicating as we
Oh
speak?
my God. Ian sold 100 bags.
Well, we sold them together, Tim. Hey, buy more, guy.
Oh my gosh, more than 100
Right out.
actually.
Yeah.
Low
Just
acidity
over
coffee.
100. It was,
It was like 100.
1667, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1697.
Send me a review on Twitter
1667.
on X.
Wow.
Tag me and Cast Brew and let me know what you think. It's interesting.
Let's see if in the next 5 minutes Ian can sell off 1,561 bags of Ian's Graphene Dream over at Casper.
It can happen. Very improbable.
And this is putting Ian through college.
Yeah, we got.
Like
I'm finally
his
gonna have to go
commission
back to
on this
school
coffee.
for-
And there's like 47,000
cosmology.
people watching right now. 1,000 of you guys could go and buy a bag of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were going to do a coffee contest between Ian and Alex Stein, and then we checked the numbers, and like Alex's coffee is like it sells okay. It's 2 times caffeine, and then like Ian sold 5. Okay, so let me explain. When it says left in stock, 1,561. This is my understanding of it. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this means printed colored bags. The coffee is made to order in small batches. The bags are filled and sent out. So we order 5,000 bags thinking like this should be good for the year or whatever. And then Ian sold it all in a month. I can't believe that happened. That's crazy.
It's the low acidity. I didn't even know what a low acidity coffee was till one of my hyper hippie friends turned me onto it in like 20.
But I can't.
Ooh, that's awesome.
I have to imagine it's largely just people saying, I have acid indigestion. I have an upset stomach. I want the lower acidity coffee.
It is really nice that that's an option.
Or maybe it's just they really want that picture of Ian.
The bag's pretty cool. You could hang it on
I
your
can't wait
wall.
to try it. Like I really want to see because
have
I
some
drink
there,
coffee
don't we?
every single day.
I don't-
I want to try it out.
Yeah.
See what it tastes like.
Crisp.
Yeah.
Mentioned it earlier.
Cider.
Like cider
Like
without
cider,
the sweetness.
without
for
the
the third
sweetness.
time. I told
Yep.
you tonight.
How does
I remembered, by the way.
You have
how
a
does
great memory.
Sleepy Joe actually sell?
I don't know.
Free?
So we have Sleepy Joe. It's decaf.
Oh, that is brilliant. That's brilliant.
Who came up with that one?
I know my dad bought a bag though. He loved it.
Sleepy Joe and Unwoke.
Unwoke.
Unwoke and Sleepy
Oh,
Joe.
unwoke. That's cute.
What kind is unwoke?
Decaf. That's got
Yeah, they're both decaf. One's
Decaf.
light, one's dark. I don't know which
Okay.
one. Yeah.
I'm not going there.
What do we have? We have Phil dressed like Santa Claus.
Oh,
2
that's
weeks.
cute.
2 weeks
Oh
till
my
Christmas.
It's for it's a gingerbread coffee.
Oh, have you had it yet?
Did you do some kind of like basic bitch pumpkin spice thing?
We had
Where's
Mr.
the-
Boca's Pumpkin Spice Experience.
That's right. That's
But
right.
we have ended that one. It's now only available if you're a coffee member. Yeah, Sleepy Joe. There's 550 left, which means we've probably sold. I don't know for sure, but 5,000 bags.
I mean, not a
quite a
lot
bit.
of people.
But that's over like
Yeah.
a year and a half.
Yeah.
Who wants decaf coffee?
I
Come
don't
on.
see a lot of Timcast members and viewers being decaf people, I gotta say.
Yeah, I drink
Oh,
flavor.
the cat one.
We do. Oh,
Very
see.
cute.
See, I didn't even realize we had Focus with Mr. Boca's espresso roast up. Dude, look at that guy.
Oh
What a
my
cutie.
goodness.
And so,
Is he from Ohio?
Mr. Bocas? No.
No. Oh, that's your cat.
Yeah. Rest in
Oh,
pease.
Rest in peace.
But I didn't even shout this out. Like, I don't think I was adequately informed that Focus with Mr. Bocas espresso roast is now available.
Look at that third eye.
Yeah. So
Really
this is
pretty.
Yeah, he was a great
He's
cat.
beautiful.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I thought about him yesterday. I thought I saw him yesterday.
pissed everywhere.
I walked out in the front room and I just felt his energy.
cat.
Sitting
I
on
went
the table.
to the castle, the old studio, and I was walking up to check out equipment, and there's just that yellow stain in the corner, and I said, "How is this not clean?"
He would look at you too.
Where are our cleaners?
You'd be like,
This cat's been dead for a year.
yeah.
Oh,
Well, we
Maybe
have-
it's just
what a
it's the
sweet
stain
baby.
that doesn't
Yeah.
come out. It's like the
May die, but the smell will live.
Or maybe I just found one spot they didn't
Yeah.
get to. But we haven't been there since
or
April,
it's
so.
the urine ghost of Mr. Book.
gets in the mat underneath the carpet. You got to
Hey,
rip
look
it
at
up.
that.
and-
Focus with Mr. Bokus. Look at that bag.
That cat was so chill for being a wild street guy.
Yep.
He respected
he's
you.
beautiful.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, we'll grab some more super chats over here. Big Fat Irving says, usually Ian drives me up the wall. Tonight he impressed me. He was nerding out with Rep Mace, asking all the right questions. He hasn't even brought up graphene, and every time Libby snorts while laughing, an angel is born.
We talked about graphene before the show, though.
Yeah, we did.
It was awesome. Maybe we did on the show, too.
Got a little education.
Jacob S. says,
Yeah.
will you ask Nancy Mace if Derek Chauvin should have been found guilty?
Well, we know more now than we did before, and he should be released. We at the time, a lot of us were upset. Even I mirrored President Trump's comments at the time, but we know more. We have the autopsy, we have the report. I know he was under the influence and was also sick, so he should be.
Floyd was.
Floyd was, yes, yeah, not Chauvin, but
And now we're hearing that it's like 14 officers claimed this other cop perjured herself. When
Alpha News. Alpha News.
it's like
has been
everything
digging into
else.
that.
The media tells you one story, and you think when you talk on it publicly, you're doing the right thing. Then you learn a year, 6 months, however much later, the facts were completely different
Yep.
and a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think Derek Chauvin should be released. At least,
and freed.
he's got federal charges too. Well, Trump can deal with that. But I don't know about state level charges.
Well, and the whole thing recently, the Department of Justice required Minneapolis cops to do a whole reform thing, and they just came to an agreement about using less force and all of these other super woke anti-police, defund the police policies that are going to be implemented. And it's perhaps all entirely based on lies and fabrications.
Indeed. My friends, it's that time. So smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know, and head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. Your membership, it sustains us. It makes all of this possible. And we're going to have that members only show coming up in about a minute. It's going to be epic. We're going to take your calls. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Rep Mace, would you like to shout anything out?
My website. Thanks for having me on. Again, this was awesome to be here. I've been following you for a long time lurker, nancymace.org if you want to chip in, or you can follow me online on X at Nancy Mace. Would love the support, the continued support, because this is a fight we're going to have. And I could use all the help I could get.
Right on. Thanks for hanging out.
I'm Libby Emmons. You can find me at The Post Millennial, and you can check out my newsletter at thepostmillennial.com/Libby, and that would come to you every day. And Tim, I was just thinking, you have all this coffee, you don't have any tea. We could do Libby's Spill the Tea. It could be fun. So,
All right, let's do it.
That's a great idea.
It could be a lot of fun. Yeah, spill the tea. I like it.
That's very cool. I was just enjoying that one. Hey, we got another game jam coming up. So I'm going to be hosting. I'm actually not hosting. Roman Nation puts these things on. They're badass. And I'm going to be one of the judges. I think Adam Krigler is going to be the other judge. And what happens is all these developers get together over the course of like 3 weeks. They make games, and then we play them and judge them on live on TV. So come watch that. I'll be putting out more info on that on Twitter. And Nancy, it's great to see you, man. Good to talk to you. I've enjoyed following your stuff for at least for the last year. So it's really great to meet you.
An honor to be here.
Yeah, it was badass. So catch you guys later. Follow me, Ian Crossland, on all the socials. See you later.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix, where you can subscribe to my page. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains, and on January 31st, our 10th record will be released. It is called Anti-Fragile. If you go to Spotify and pre-save right now, if you want to get a taste of some of the songs on there, you can check out Forever Cold, Let You Go, No Tomorrow, and Divine. They're on YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, and Deezer. And don't forget, The Left Lane is for Crime.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.